Go on then, Steve. Give us an introduction. Well, I could do it my way. I could say, that's Steve James. This isn't. There you go. How about that? Is that a good intro? Is
That's
that
a good one, that. But who's this isn't? I mean,
this
we're
is
gonna have to give this isn't a proper name. I'm gonna call you Nathan Lucius. How about
oh
that?
fine. Well, it says it on the screen, so I suspect we better go with that just
Happy
to
days.
um
Well,
right.
she will say hello and welcome to the Fake Away podcast.
There you go.
My name's Steve James, and of course, this handsome chap is Nathan Lucius, and today we'll be discussing this glorious book. You can just see it behind. Where's my finger going? Oh, there we go. Somewhere over here. It's called Fake Awake. How about let's discuss what that book's all about?
Let's
You're
go
the
into it.
man.
All right. So obviously we get a few questions about the book, don't we? It gets accused of a lot of things that it isn't. But it is definitely controversial. So let's start with that. So yeah, we're going to have a look at some of the content within the book, and we're going to look into why it was written, who it was aimed at, with the hopes of waking a few people up and seeing if we can snap people out of their illusions. What would you say, Steve?
Slumber, sleepy slumber. Yeah.
Yeah. So, in the nicest way possible, the truth movement is, I would say, and I think Steve would agree with me, suffering from its own free reign with information. For want of a better word, there's a lot of psyops out there, and obviously, when people think that they're awake, it's very much different to what is actually meant by awake. So, they'll say, "Oh, I'm awake, and I believe that the aliens are coming to save us," and I'm awake, but I believe that QAnon's going to come and save us with the white hats, and Donald Trump's the savior, obviously. But we've had a look at things like that, and we have dissected it, and it turns out that it might not be as simple as if you believe in something, it's true. I think we'll go for that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, right, okay. I'm going to start. So, again, my name's Nathan Lucius. This is Steve James. We co-authored the book Fake Awake, just to go back into that. So, why did I write the book? Why did I write the book, Steve? Basically, because somebody had to say the difficult truths that I think the truth of the world, doesn't quite want to acknowledge. Obviously, we've all been through a lot of collective trauma in recent years with pointy things being threatened to go into people's arms, and face coverings to silence us and keep us compliant and things like that. And, there has been a lot of collective trauma in recent years, and people will obviously, and for what I would say is obvious reasons, look for hopium. Look for some kind of hope in the future to make sure that they can survive, and that they can reassure themselves that they're not going to be carted off and thrown into some kind of gulag or something like that. So for that reason, they look at there's a lot of information online, and they will dig into that. And often skepticism is thrown aside, because if something sounds good or something sounds exciting, there's a lot of clickbait. You're drawn into things. I mean, I was first drawn into things like aliens, interdimensional beings, frequency, the whole new age stuff, basically. Pulled me in, got my attention, and, it was fun. It really was. And some of the characters out there, they're very charismatic and informative, and they tell some very good, interesting stories and tall tales. The problem with that is, some of it's just complete horseshit.
Some of it, all of it, certainly a great deal of it, and it's hard to disseminate the truth from fiction and facts from reality, and credible information is quite hard to discern. And I think us both being, you could say, practitioners or researchers of the occult, we kind of understand the dynamics involved in the human mind and how that interplays with the direct relationship upon the wider world, the macrocosm and the microcosm, which I'm sure we'll get into at some time during our podcast series. But I think we should start off selling this book. Where can we get it from? How many pages?
Okay.
How much is it?
Right. Okay. So usually when people ask me that question, I say it's available for £20 on Amazon worldwide. But for friends, it's £50 because we really count on your support. Is that
Yeah,
you know?
I think we need more friends, or
Yeah,
I
it seems that
think
way.
these sales skyrocketing, a bit like Jeff Bezos. Did you know that his rocket ship at Blue Origin was launched on a very particular date? Incidentally, and this wasn't in the book, by the way, as
Oh,
far as
right.
I know, the
Go on.
20th of July, which is a very particular day in the occult calendar, the satanic calendar. It's called the Grand Climax. It's day 201, believe it or not,
Oh,
and it's related to Sirius. Yeah, Sirius, a massively important star in Freemasonry and very much all the occult mystery schools.
yeah.
But Blue Origin, that's a very interesting rocket ship. And apparently,
Just
whether this is true or not, I don't know because I wasn't there. Was anybody there? But apparently, Blue Origin uh, sailed up to the heavens 66.6 miles high before it descended back to Earth. And of course, if anyone's interested in looking to see the very particular shape of Blue Origin, you might need
yeah.
to go on Google and check that one out.
Are we saying it's a bit phallic, perhaps?
It was massively phallic. I mean,
Yeah.
can I say it was a flying space dildo on the Big Wave podcast? I
Wasn't
don't
expecting
want to use terms of expression like that, but that's what it was. It was a giant. In fact, you know what? I bet it was 33 foot tall.
that.
I'm
33
gonna
foot
just
tall
put it out
space
there.
dildo. And what was that the holiday that was celebrating again? The Grand Climax?
The Satanic Grand Climax.
Well, there
It
we
was the
go.
same day that the Freemasons landed on the moon in 1969. But I mean, I tell you what, we're kind of going off on a massive tangent here.
Just a lot there.
But, and again, this has got nothing to do with fake wake, but just out of curiosity, if you look at the flight data mapping of the Apollo 11 space mission, the schematic, there's two circles and there's a long sausage shape. And the long sausage shape kind of intertwines between the two circular objects.
Oh,
So, and it makes a very phallic
yeah.
symbol, should we say? But just putting it out there, I'm not saying that the Freemasons didn't really land
Well,
on the fake moon.
the fake moon. You're not one of these guys who thinks the moon's fake and gay, right?
I don't know.
You're
Who
not
knows?
sure. I mean, a lot of people now say that the moon is fake and gay, and I'm like, well, I'm looking at it up there, and as far as I can tell, it seems pretty real.
There's definitely something in the sky, but
It's very bright, isn't it?
that is again. We just don't know. But some of these points we could maybe establish by better knowledge of ourselves and the universe, of course, which is what kind of Vega Wake is all about. And I know this it kind of it covers a lot of angles, but what do you think the ultimate aim of Vega Wake is, Nathan?
Right. Okay. I would like to think that it will again going back to the whole illusion thing, mate. I want to snap people out of their illusions. Right. Okay. So there's a couple of things that are involved in that. Um, some very well placed psyops, which again we've looked into and dug apart, and I would like to think exposed quite well. But I also look into the psychological aspect of why people tend to fall for psyops, why they are not more discerning in their choice of information and beliefs. And so from that, we go into what I refer to as the seven deadly mindsets. And we can probably pull that up in a minute.
That would be worth looking into,
yeah.
certainly. What would you say in the book is probably the most important part for people to recognize and read and understand?
Okay. Right. So we're gonna try and make certain people aware of natural law with this one. Okay. So a lot of the dynamics of natural law, which is to say moral natural law and the physical universal laws, are mapped out quite clearly in the book to demonstrate that of all the world's problems that we've got, there is a solution to that. So, the both of us are very familiar with Mark Passio, for example, who very much goes into the idea of natural law, moral natural law, and brings into to focus the failings of the human condition. I think we could call it. I'm trying to be fair. I'm trying not to offend too many of the delicate audience out there. So I'm sighing now because I'm thinking, how do we snap out people, out of their religious beliefs, out of their their ideologies, things like that. I mean, if we're being honest, sorry, I'm pressing buttons. When you mention natural law to people, sorry, I'm struggling with my words because I want to put it across. When you mention natural law to people, it's one of those things where people go, "Oh, it's boring. It's not interesting. So why do we need to know that?" If they're interested in the occult, it's like, tell me about symbolism, tell me about all of the things that come into that particular arena, and they don't want to look at the psychological aspects as to why society is in the mess that it's in. Okay, so. The principle of natural law, the ideal principle is based on sovereignty, right? So it's the idea that we are all sovereign beings. And in order for us to live in harmony with the universe, nature, society, our friends, family, people around us, there has to be a code of conduct for us all to pretty much, get along and operate and function in the best way possible. And so that code of conduct is what is referred to as objective morality. Okay, so then what is objective morality? It is the difference between right and wrong, which is eternal, unchangeable, and fixed within nature, within the universe. It doesn't change. It's not a subjective. I think that at this moment in time, but it can possibly change tomorrow. It's not that. So the point of it is that if we don't have an adherence to the strict moral universal code of conduct toward each other, towards our fellow man, towards ourselves even, which is to do no harm effectively. So when we discuss natural law, a lot of the time, the people say, "Well, can you explain it to us?" And I think a lot of the times they expect this huge dialogue, and it's very complicated. It's actually really not. It's only complicated when you try and dissect it to explain it to people. Effectively, do no harm is the full extent of natural law. Okay, so first principle is sovereignty, do no harm. So then you've got your second principle, which is self-defense, right? The principle to you have the right under natural law to protect yourself. So if somebody impacts your freedoms and tries to violate your rights that we all have as sovereigns, that then gives you the right in that under natural law to defend yourself, defend your property, defend your rights, defend your own freedoms against other people's encroachments. So that's principle number one: sovereignty, do as you will but do no harm. Principle number two is if somebody violates your sovereignty and tries to take what's yours, basically what belongs to anyone, if they're trying to take what doesn't belong to them, that's a violation against all your rights and principles. Okay, so the idea is to realize what is right and what is wrong, and the best way to explain that is if an act is causing willful harm to another being, then it would be considered a wrong. But then it gets a little bit complicated when people say, yeah, but what if it's a choice between saving that group of people and saving that group of people, and how do you determine what's right and wrong? Well, then you weigh up the lesser of the evils, right? I mean, it's okay. That's a broad statement, but if you then take into account the broader implications of, which act leads to the least amount of harm, then that would lead us back into, okay, so that's the path that ideally you should choose to go down.
So by understanding natural law, essentially it requires a mindset change, doesn't it? It's almost like a paradigm shift, simply because we've mentioned a few terms, objective morality being one of them. Now, I would suggest that many people, even in the truth community, probably they've either never heard of that expression or they don't understand what it means, I would imagine most people, again, would struggle to define that as well. Similarly with natural law, I mean, certainly from my own research and talk and engagement with people, I think there's a very almost a poor understanding of that concept, that term, that expression. I mean, a lot of people kind of mistake it for common law.
Oh, that's a very good point because you know, and that's it's sorry to cut you off, but there's a very big misconception. So, oh, common law, it's the law of the land. Well, no, it's not really. It's linked to it because it does deal with the concept of right and wrong and property ownership, which yeah is then a facet of common law and the law of the land, but it's not that. We're not talking about, you know, legal procedures and you know, man's laws and things like that. So
yeah, so natural law has a direct consequence upon the reality that we perceive, whereas a common law is still part of man's law essentially, and man's law is open to corruption, whereas God's law or natural law is incorruptible. It's immutable. It'll never change. It's not dependent on location or, you know, time of year or the whims and political ideals of the various legislators. It simply is what it is. Nothing can change that fact. However, there is a bit of you could say, a barrier in place because I think either people don't want to accept it or they just don't understand it enough in order to accept it. I don't know what your opinions are of that on, Nathan.
I think it's a bit of both, actually. I think there is a massive misunderstanding because people assume too much, which again, you know, if we look at the psychological side of things and you know, what we're again going back to the seven deadly mindsets, which we'll cover shortly. I think a lot of it is to do with that. A lot of it is to do with ignoring information. It is choosing to side with belief, an assumption, and to think that you know what things are simply because you hear it or you come across it or you watch a video and, you know, just short form intakes of information. So I think that's where the miscommunication comes from, the misunderstanding. However, there is a bit of a problem with people not wanting to look into it. There seems to be very concerted effort to almost attack it in certain ways. You know, it's kind of you. I'm saying you know a lot again. When you explain it to people, when you try and explain it, and they look at you as if to say, "Yeah, but that's not the solution to all the problems of the world." You know, the solution is, you know, we've got to end usury. The solution is we have to disarm the population. The solution is we've got to eat properly. We've got to be healthy. All right. Well, I'm not saying that they're not important solutions. I'm saying that that is not the solution. Whereas everyone that's looking at our explanations and even Mark Passio, I mean, even he has, you know, he's very much delved into all of this in incredible detail
for many years.
What was it, 17 years or something like that?
Yeah, easily.
But even he has difficulty getting the message into people. It's like they're willfully discarding it.
Yeah,
it's almost like they don't want it to be true. They're looking for solutions outside of the actual solution, right? So there is a definite willful neglect of natural law. But okay, let's look at it from a higher up position, right? So what I often tell people is if you want to see a picture below clearly, right, instead of looking at it head on, take yourself up and look down at the situation. So you've got a panoramic aerial view and you can see everything from above. And so if you look at the root cause of all the world's problems, we find three psyops, right? So I'll go into those psyops. And again, you take it back 6,000 years into history, you can take it back 6 days, and you can take it forward 6 days if you like. These three problems have effectively subjected humanity to a slave mindset. Which is problematic, so the first psyop of all time is money, right? So when you introduce a monetary system, you've implemented a system of control because what you're doing is creating a system whereby people have like deficiency. What's the word I'm looking for here? So there is a there's lack, where some people will have a surplus. Yeah, I guess you're looking. Yeah, that's not the word I'm looking for, but it's yeah. So some people are going to be in deficit and they're going to struggle, and other people are going to take advantage of that, and so there's going to be a very uneven distribution of wealth, right? So straight away, money is a psyop to control, and who does it benefit? Generally, the top tier of society, which is a very small percentage. Some people say it's the 1%. I would argue it's bigger than that these days because of the minions and the order follower class of people, the administrators who push it through, the people who essentially make sure that these plans happen. So anyway, so we've got the money, which leads to financial institutions, which leads to control up through financial means. It limits your food supply, it limits what you can buy, it limits your access to land, limits your access to housing and the basics that we all need. So that's one. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty easy.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so psyop number 2, which is a favorite subject of mine, is religion. And religion is enslavement of the mind. So if you can convince somebody that you've got all the answers to the universe, that you can explain how life, reality, and everything works, you have the absolute authority of God or gods, because it's been around a long, long time. And essentially, if you could put this into a book, text, a body of information, you could create strictures and rules and dogmas around that. Somebody is putting that together. There is a hierarchical structure at the top of that religion, and at the bottom of that religion is the rest of the people that are subjected to it. So they've got to go out and worship, which is so they're sacrificing their time. Often they're sacrificing their money, for offerings and
church roof fund.
Oh yeah, let's not forget. I mean, don't get me wrong, churches are beautiful, temples are beautiful. Ancient temples are some of the best buildings in the world. However, we've got to again ask who's benefiting from that.
Yeah,
and it isn't the populace. So money, I would say, is the physical restriction. It's the restriction of the physical realm, and you've got religion, which is the restriction of your spiritual realm.
Yeah.
And so there is another psyop that goes, again, you can take this all the way back through civilization. You can take it to any part of the world. You can take it, any period in history, you can find your psyops. The third psyop is statism, which, just to give a brief explanation of statism is the belief that authority has the right to dictate the living standards and it's
like the control over. It's like the belief in the control over individuals.
Yeah, effectively, it's mind control.
Yeah,
yeah. So statism effectively takes your mind and tells you what you can and can't do. It will then create laws based on that, which is what we refer to as moral relativist laws, which is laws that change over time, laws that change on a whim, laws that change on people's personal preferences or certain cultures. Oftentimes we find that the laws and religions are linked directly together. So money, physical, religion is spiritual enslavement, and government is mental enslavement.
Yeah.
And so
these are interesting that there's three major, we'll categorize these as three major psyops. I mean, three is a massively important number in all aspects of occultism. But if we were to break those three component parts down, just by looking at the etymological structure of these words themselves, I mean, we'll start off with money. Now, I'm hasten to do this on the, I'm just going to do it because actions speak louder than words. We all know what that is, don't we?
Yeah.
This is the one eye symbol, one eye symbology. I'm sure most viewers, I'd imagine most of the internet knows about the one eye symbology. That's what money means. Mono eye, one eye.
Yeah.
So the one eye of who? Possibly the one eye of Lucifer, but regardless, it's quite an interesting combination of words, and to see the hold that money has over the entirety of the human population. It's so big a hold that it's probably hard to grasp that this is actually, a psyop in itself. But yeah, the whole human race is essentially embroiled psychologically in the power that money has over us. I mean, so everybody needs it because we've all got bills to pay. We've all got to pay bail the bill. So we all need the one eye in order to do so. But it's do they not say the love of money is the root of all evil? So it's something that we need to be able to self-regulate. And essentially, if we want to live by the terms and conditions of natural law, we have to have self-directed, self-governing behaviors.
Well, can I just add a little caveat to that as well? It's not so much a caveat, but if we go back to the mono eye, the one eye symbolism, we are also told that in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king, or you know, and so they're effectively telling you that money is your king, because without it, you can't really operate within a modern, especially a modern society. But even if you take it back to ancient societies, you are restricted by the amount of wealth that you have and own. But let's not forget that where there's money, there's theft.
That's a good point. Yeah, and again, that's that's part of one of the transgressions of natural law. But we'll probably cover that at another time, or perhaps. But looking at those other two remaining psyops, we've covered religion. And again, there's many things can fit into that category. I know Mark Passio, whose work we both, mutually respect in large amounts. Mark Passio will talk about money being a religion, and the statism being a religion as well. But if we look at religion itself, when we take that back to the root of the etymological structure from that, it comes down to the Latin term, which is religare, which literally means to hold back. And I know Mark Passio uses the term to thwart from progress. To hold back, to bind is another expression that's often used with that. So it's almost like religion is a state of life bound by vows to something that is essentially a man-made construction with dogmas and doctrine thrown in, which again is all part of subverting one's free mind. And if we don't have a free mind, if we're not autonomous, then we will struggle to live by in the true nature of things and the terms of natural law, which is, again, this is one thing that we need to massively understand at a far deeper level, at a wider playing field. If we look again at the third word that you looked at, or the third psyop, which was statism. Statism is the belief in authority, the belief that government have the right to do these things. And of course, government have got no rights, as none of these rights are granted by nature. These are all fragments of a diseased mind. We have to basically the human race has to be diseased in its own psyche to accept the rulership of another person or another group of individuals. But statism, government, let's look at that word. The etymological structure of the word government, gubernare mentis, which is Latin, gubernare mentis, to control the mind control. So mind control, to hold back, and one eye. So these are all massively, massively important words to remember, and to deep down, if viewers are watching this or listening in thinking, oh, I've never heard these expressions before. Well, we need to really contemplate why these words mean what they are and what kind of hold these entities, these psyops have over us. Psyop, by the way, again, if people don't understand that, psychological operation.
So, which, well, but by its definition, it's implied that somebody has put it together, right? It's an agenda, it's an operation. That's not something that just occurs naturally. That's not something that develops over time as a societal side effect. It's a deliberate mechanism introduced into society to, again, control, hold you back, hold you in slavery and servitude and subjectivity. So
I think it'd be fair to say that Take Away, the book that we're talking about. How many pages is it, by the way, Nathan? Do you remember?
439, I think.
Okay.
400. I'll tell you what. Pass it over. Pass it over. Let's have it.
By the magic of television.
Oh, I know
this.
it's teleportation.
Yeah,
watch this. Real magic, real occult magic.
Watching this.
Steady. What?
Wait.
Wow, well done, dude.
Do you know what? I think we should do some more magical trickery so people will think that we are true master magicians. I'm going to raise a glass. By the way, the featured whiskey of this evening is Woodford Reserve. Okay, Woodford Reserve. I'm going to toast the Fake Awake podcast and the rise of Fake Awake.
Well, there's a slight problem with that. My glass is empty.
Oh, you joking? We're gonna have to fill that.
There you go. There you go.
I'm gonna have to fill that.
So do we have to announce that Woodford Reserve is in fact not our bloody sponsor?
Yeah, we're not sponsoring this.
We're just really recommending it. So right, in answer to your question, Steve, a massive whopping 438 pages.
Wow.
Okay. Right. Okay. I'll just pour myself some poison. There you go. Some lovely whiskey there. Thank you. Some very expensive whiskey by the looks of it.
I hope there's no expense spared on the
production values.
Yeah, this isn't what's it called? This isn't AI generated. This is legit. We're teleporting this whiskey.
It's true. And the books. Well, anyway. Yeah. So right, let's toast the podcast. Right. So to the genuinely awake, and to those actually striving for freedom, and to understand the way that things work, and to seek answers and the truth, we toast you and we toast each other. So there you go.
Cheers.
There you go. And by the end of this podcast, we're going to be quite tipsy.
We're going to be starry-eyed.
Starry-eyed. It'll improve my performance. I'm still recovering from the 10-hour Paseo thing from last night.
Yeah. Do you know what? Before we advertise and promote our own book, why don't we talk about that for a few moments? Because if anyone isn't aware, we had the pleasure of watching was it 10 hours of Mark Passio's
10 hours
shadow work seminar yesterday, the 22nd of November. That's an important date, the date that Kennedy was shot.
Well, hold on. Yeah, let's trigger the shill accusers. It was 22/11. Which, if you add that together, you've got a whopping 33 there. So for anyone who's offended or triggered by the number 33 or any resulting Freemasonic references, Passio, you've triggered them again.
Yeah. I actually think we probably use that date purposefully because that's what they've, let's just say the secret societies would do. They use many such dates to, with the numerological nuances to promote their events or their psyops, such as the death of a king Masonic murder ritual of JFK's passing on the 22nd of the 11th, on the 33rd parallel.
Oh, you all conspiracy theorists.
I know, there's plenty more where that came from in terms of Kennedy. But one thing I would say, there's many things we could discuss that would really excite conspiracy theorists and anybody looking into Masonic connections and occult connections with the death of Kennedy. But that was many, many years ago. And even though it's been dissected an awful lot, the answers are still not crystal clear. We're still no further forward to knowing the full truth. So I would say that is a good indication to realize that all these modern day conspiracies, they're still going to be conspiracies for another 100 years. And most of us will be in our graves before the answers come out. So therefore, conspiracies are not the answers to the problems in the world. It's interesting to look at them and to study them and to have an understand how these work. But what we really need to do is get to the roots of the problems. We need to look at causal factors. And this is another aspect of Fake Awake, which is, I would say, it's significantly lacking from the understanding of, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but to the average truther does not understand fully the causal factors. What's your take on that, Nathan?
Right. Well, I'm going to do my bit where I pick on the Truthville community, which is to say that if let's look at the word truth, right? So the truth is right? It just is. It is what it is. It doesn't matter whether you like it or whether you understand it, whether you acknowledge it. The truth is the truth, and it's a continuous stream of events, timings, placings. It's that which is happening now and that which has happened in the past. And as far as I can tell, that's that's the foundation of truth, right? So the truth isn't not it's not something that we go searching for because we like it. We go searching for it because we want to understand things, right? So okay, I've got a bit of a problem with the word conspiracy theorist, okay? Because there are a lot of conspiracy theorists out there, and I'd like to think that you and I are not conspiracy theorists. Certainly, we look into theories. Some of them are very interesting. Some of them are provably massively wrong, and I would say diversion tactics, smoke and mirrors, or in some cases, sorry people, just pure stupidity. Some of the things that are out there, it's just like, okay, all right, then back to reality. Okay, so I have no problem with conspiracy research, which leads you into the truth behind events, which is great. Okay, so let's from that perspective. If we look at truthers, which is people that are associated, I guess, with the truth movement, people who are going out and they say, I guess anything that's not the mainstream must therefore be true. So if it's in the mainstream, it's not true. If it's not in the mainstream, it is true. Well, unfortunately, that's a mental condition, a mental cognitive bias called splitting or myopic thinking, black and white thinking. And my God, the amount of people that fall into this category is phenomenal. So, getting back to your question, I am a truth seeker, mate. And I think so my whole purpose here is to seek the truth, and as you would say, speak the truth no matter what it is, right? And so this is where we fall short, which is the community in general that is now hailing itself as the enlightened, the awakened, unfortunately are not very close to that. Because let's look at critical thinking just briefly before we come back to that. Again, critical thinking is being critical of your own thoughts, critical of your own actions, critical of your own behaviors, your own knowledge, right? So the idea is to question that, to challenge that, to make sure that it stands up to scrutiny, right? Which links back into truth. If you want to know the truth of something, if you have no agenda, if there's a religious belief behind that, your seeking of facts and truths and evidence is going to be skewed by a worldview concept that is not necessarily true, accurate, or even good. And things like religion keep coming, it keeps popping up there with, you find morals in religion. No, you don't. You find that religion destroys morality. That in fact, sorry about this. I'll just turn that off because I thought I'd turn that off. Bye bye. Right, so I don't know where I am now. Right,
you're talking about religion and morality, and
well, just again, if we are seeking the truth genuinely, which is what we need to do, I think the whole point of this, the whole point of Fake Awake, the whole point of the freedom movement, is to find the truth of something, find the problem of something, find the root cause of things, so that then we can begin to fix the problem. And a lot of the time, people don't want to look at the root cause. They want to look at the effects, which is why we're never going to get answers. We're never going to get the truth by believing in things, right? So largely, one of the massive themes that runs through the entirety of the book Fake Awake is don't believe, know. And there's a little saying that goes with that, is that, belief is the enemy of knowing, which it is. If you either know something or you don't. If you believe it, you don't know it. You're choosing to trust in something without necessarily knowing it. Well, that's not a truth-seeking mechanism. That's not the facts. That's not understanding the world as it really is. That is not an objective understanding or perception of reality.
You could say, I reckon you could say that belief is a bit of a cop-out. It saves the hardship of having to actually find something out and know for sure.
Right.
By just literally stating it as a belief. And sadly, I mean, it's maybe just the way it is, but sadly, society as a whole just accepts somebody with a belief. And I'm not saying we should persecute. I'm not trying to say, don't put words into my mouth here that I'm trying to persecute anybody with religious sentiments. But if we believe in something, you could almost say, well, you're not fully established with the truth, and you're accepting something based on almost a whim with sketchy information. You're accepting something into your reality, into your ideologies, into your outlook of the way you function and perform in the world, based on what could be completely inaccurate,
erroneous,
erroneous,
misleading, deceptive,
dogmatic, and perhaps just accepting something that's been taught or told to you by somebody else. I mean, it's a bit of a cop out, really. So,
well, all right. Let's. So going back to Passio's seminar, we just we watched on the shadow work, which is, I guess, in one way, it's a self-improvement operation. You've got to start within before you can start to make positive changes without. So as within, so without, as above, so below. But he talks about this quite a lot. That if you're going to accept a belief, where does that get you? You choose to believe something, you're going to be misled effectively.
Exactly.
So I get accused of being quite aggressive towards Christians. So I'm trying not to offend Christians.
Well, do you know what? Is it worth us mentioning that we are on a, I'm not going to say a mission, but we are trying to alter our approach in general to the truth community, because we want to work together in partnership, and we want to steer an understanding. And of course, what we don't want to do is lose people by being negative, if that's how we've come across before, and we certainly don't want to seem to be too critical towards our fellow truth community members. After all, we are in the same community. We are all seeking truth. We are trying to promote truth by means of a fabulous 438 pages, really in-depth book. One of the only books, I hasten to add, that in print anyway, that talks about natural law to such high degree. So, I mean, are you aware of any other books out there that's promoting natural law?
If we look at, but we're talking about older volumes that were done in the late 1800s, 1900s. Manly Palmer Hall comes to mind with his massive, his vast occult wisdom, I guess. I mean, that covers it. There's Alvin Boyd Kuhn covers it in certain ways, usually through religious avenues. I mean, I do. It is one of the things that's out there. It is an occult tradition. I would say it's one of the most highly occult traditions going, which is why you don't come across it that much. But there are volumes out there that deal with it. But they tend to be, a lot of them are out of print. A lot of them are reprints.
Probably. So, I mean, this is what I would perhaps say in addressing the truth community. To work towards a common goal. I would say, how many people in the truth community know fully what natural law actually means, what the implications of it is, and how it actually works? I mean, could anybody, describe it in their own words? Can anyone describe conditions such as objective morality and understand those concepts, causal factors? I would say, if you're familiar with the works of Mark Passio, then 5 stars, because this guy's pretty much, I would say, the world's leading expert, the world's living expert on natural law and how to explain it and define it in a very, very concise manner. But this is not a new concept. This isn't anything new. This is as old as the universe itself. Therefore, it's never going to go away. And if we aren't familiar with how this works or what it is, then really we do not understand reality to the level required in order to participate in it and participate in it successfully. Because in order to live a life in the truth, then you need to know the truth. So if we don't know natural law, then we don't know the full truth. Therefore, we're living a half-baked lie in our existence. So you mentioned cause and effect. Now, that is one of the natural laws, one of the Hermetic principles, the law of cause and effect. It's interesting that the word cause comes before the word effect, because all effects start off with a cause. Now, for the benefit, you could say, of the viewership, causes start here in the mind.
Right.
This is where causation starts, because everything that we do, if I want to pick up this cup of pine needle tea,
which I've substituted for whiskey, so
yeah, and I've also got a little. Oops, I finished that one.
Oh dear.
If I want to pick this cup up, I have to first formulate the expression of how to do so in my mind. And of course, a lot of this is subconscious, but my brain has to tell my hand to move, and then I have to put it to my mouth and drink it. Every effect starts with a cause. Now, this is where the truth movement are kind of tripping themselves up a lot, because the truth movement are, and again, I'm trying to be polite here. Do you like that?
Well, I'm just
not being polite enough.
Well, I mean, you need to be a bit more positive, Steve, if you're asking me.
All right, I'll try to be positive.
So politeness works. Yeah, well, let's go for politeness.
Yeah, well, polite and positive. So what we can do, the truth movement, is stop concentrating on effects. Because if we're not concentrating on causes, then we can't change the effects. Effects have already happened. It's causation that prevents the effects from happening. So causation is where we need to establish our kind of battle plan. We need to target our own minds and the minds of others. And if we understand causal factors, and again, this is all in Fake Awake, if we understand causal factors, and one of those causal factors, I think it was safe to say, is immorality, and a moral society, if our society is embracing immorality and we are not addressing that at a causal level, then it doesn't matter how many times we try to, let's use the expression, scratch the itch. If we want to keep scratching the itch and not address the causal problems, then nothing is going to change, and we'll be scratching that itch all day long. So causal factors, cause and effect. These are all things, and some of the terminology that we're using, or some of the expressions and concepts we're covering, these are all part of what is known as the occult. Now, this gets a bad press because a lot of people think the occult means evil, or it means Satanism, or it means darkness. I mean, have you got a favorite negative expression on what the occult means, Nathan?
A favorite negative expression?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think a lot of people mistake it for a cult, which is very misleading. It's a completely different concept. But yeah, usually when you say the word occult, you trigger the hell out of people. Because they associate it with devil worship, with evil, with witchcraft, with sorcery and magic and demonism and demonology and all kinds of weird stuff. Not to go off on a tangent down that route, but you've just mentioned cause and effect as well. Let's look at consequentialism as well.
Yeah.
Yes, that effectively that is cause and effect is consequentialism. Every action has an effect. Every action has a cause, and every cause has an effect, and every effect becomes calls for more effects. It is a natural law in terms of it never changes. It's never going to change. If you do something, it's always going to have a reaction to that. It's always going to have an outcome. It's always going to be to affect other things. I mean, these are one of the most occulted concepts in the world, and yet to me, it's common sense. It's looking at the world and saying, well, yeah, okay, if everything that you do, everything that happens in the universe is going to have an effect, and those effects will have yet more effects and more effects, and it just keeps going on and on and on and outwards. So I mean, to me, that's common sense.
Yeah.
But yet it's one of the most occult sciences that comes under the banner of Hermeticism. The idea that Hermes Trismegistus brought wisdom to mankind through, through his occult teachings, and he's reincarnated thrice, thrice greater, so he's reincarnated 3 times as well. He's the most wise man, the most wise God, and is that the case? Do we need this to come from a God, or do we need to just observe the world around us and say, well, 2 and 2 is 4? It is that simple, and we look at that, and we also can link that into as above, so below. Whatever is happening out there is an effect from what is happening from in here, right? So going back to the principle of all is mind. Well, if all is mind, if all things begin with a thought, then theoretically, in principle, logically, who's the thinker? Where's the first thought? Where's the first cause, right? So this is another part of the occulted idea. Where is that first cause? What is it? Well, some people call it God, some people call it consciousness, some people call it the universe. In the Hermetic in the Hermetic tradition, they call it the all, unity consciousness. There's so many different ways to express it, and yet this is what people are confusing with evil and darkness and witchcraft. This is not evil and darkness. It's philosophy. At its highest point, it is considering how the universe works, what it's all about. Where does it come from? How have things come into being? How do the universe? What are the rules? What's the clockwork mechanisms set in place to keep it running effectively, to keep it coherent? And there's many philosophies out there that will question this, and there's lots of different directions that they take it into, but effectively, it's a very simple and elegant philosophy of, well, what do we see around us? What never changes? All right, well then let's catalog that in a series of laws, and we've come up with 7 laws of Hermetic, wisdom, which to me is common sense, gender, polarity, and then you can link this thing into things like frequency, energy, and vibration. It all links back into those Hermetic principles, which speaks for itself. Light, is a frequency. Volume, speech, noise, music, it's a frequency, right? But again, all these things have an effect. It goes out and people react to it, and it has an effect of people building on it, taking it. So right, anyway, but back on point, these are the things that people think are evil. Exactly. And yet to me it's not. It's just a basic understanding of the world and the universe around us, and trying to understand it from that perspective.
I mean, this kind of ties back into that term belief. People believe that the occult is evil. Why? I don't know. Maybe because historically they've heard somebody talk about it, or somebody's put them off for whatever reason.
I'll tell you who I think's put them off. Again, back to the original 3 psyops: religion, statism, money. If you start to understand the mechanisms of the universe and how objective reality works and operates, then you can start asking the deeper questions. You can start then questioning the things that you've been told not to question. You can start questioning dogma. You can start questioning your authority figures. You can start questioning your financial institutions, moral, ethical framework, things like that. They don't want you to do that because they lose control. If the illusion shatters, if the control illusion shatters, then they've lost their power.
Exactly.
Which means that what takes over from that is there's going to be a return to a demand for justice. And the only way that we can have justice is if we've got freedom and a true understanding of what is right and wrong. You can't have justice without a knowledge of right and wrong.
Exactly.
Okay. So just to take that idea of belief, that is their number one weapon in reality, is that if they can get you to believe something, they've got your mind. And if they've got your mind, remember, going back to the first Hermetic principle, all is mind. If somebody else, an institution, a religious authority, a government authority, if they control that, they control your actions, your behaviors, your thoughts, your output, the way you live your life, how you treat others. They will determine that, not nature. Because you've allowed yourself to be subjected to that kind of control. You've allowed yourself to be, if we take this back to its fundamentals, if all is mind, and I can't see through many years of research anything that can surpass that or supersede it or dismiss it. It doesn't. It always comes back to mind. Where does it all start? What does it all formulate from? If you are a sovereign being, then you are a unique part of it. A unique mind within a collective of unique minds. If you allow yourself to give that to somebody or something else, so that they can control your mind,
Mm-hmm.
you've given away your sovereignty. If you've given away your sovereignty, you've given away your freedom.
Mm-hmm.
If you give away your freedom, then what are you? Because if we look at that, then if you have no freedom, effectively, you're enslaved. And you're
Exactly.
enslaved because somebody else is controlling you. Because if somebody wasn't controlling you, you wouldn't be. You'd be able to operate freely.
Yeah.
So if somebody's controlling you, what do we call them? We call them a master. We call them a controller, a conditioner, God, I mean, take your pick at this.
Yeah, it's all the psychopath.
A psycho. Well, yeah. Let's not get into that. That's a massive subject.
Yeah, I think that word gets frequent mention in paperweight, Nathan.
Well, yeah, I mean, I do think that psychopathic influence on society is part of the problem. But then again, who is the more complicit with evil? The one that commands it, or the one who carries it out?
Exactly. I mean, and again, if we are in command of our own minds, the mind of it or the influence of a
Yeah,
psychopath should not affect us. Yet
right.
it does, and I would probably mention that perhaps most positions of leadership in, let's just say, government, which we've already
Yeah.
established means mind control, is full of psychopaths, people who have a desire to thwart influence upon other people. I mean, I don't go through my life trying to think who can I control and have under my thumb and go and do a whole manner of different things for, just either for cheap thrills or for my own financial benefit. I'd imagine that many people in the world don't have that desire.
Mm.
However, there is a small percentage of people who do.
Well, what is it? Okay, if we look at psychopaths, the masters, the ones who can do things without conscience,
Mm.
um, they are controllers, they're manipulators. They like to formulate their own plans, their own. They want to do things their way, and they have no compunction to not do that. Nothing holds them back from doing that. They have their objective in sight, and they will cast aside any thought of consequence. Again, it comes back to consequentialism. They don't care about the consequences of their actions. Therefore, if they can do something and nobody puts a block in front of it, nobody says no, stop, we're not having this, then they will take that as tacit consent. They will take that as an acknowledgement of, okay, we're going to do this. Nobody's willing to stop us. Therefore, that makes it right, right. And so this is where we get the idea of justice from it, which is to make right or to make rights. And so now we've got, going back to laws, subjective laws created by the psychopathic mindset, because they don't care about the consequences of their actions. They lack conscience. And we were talking the other day about, lies, theft.
Yeah.
I find it different. And again, yeah, of course, I think genuinely most people tell lies, even to a small degree, even if it's just a little white lie so that they don't get other people harmed, or okay, fine. But it's very difficult for you and I to tell lies, because it's just not that there's a fear of getting caught, not that it's just, to me, it doesn't feel right. It's not. It's unsettling. It gives you a dissonance, an internal dissonance, right? It's unsettling to your mind. It's unbalancing. It's going to distract you. It's going to, you're going to get caught because you have conscience.
Yeah.
But for those who don't have conscience, those who can manipulate you because they don't care how it affects you, how it affects your family, how it affects the world, they're gonna go out there and take what they want and do what they want with it, and they do.
Exactly.
And effectively, you look at the most psychopathic mindsets in the world, and they're always in a position of power, right? They're always in. So again, you could take things like physicians. Emergency doctors. What's the word I'm looking for? Bloody hell, my mind's crap tonight, Steve. But what I'm saying is, they always want the higher up positions. They can do the things that a lot of us are squeamish about. They can do the things that a lot of us would have difficulty making.
Company executives
and
chief executives of companies tend to, I mean, a general point, but a lot of people in high positions are psychopathic in nature.
I'll tell you a little bit of an anecdote. I knew a guy during the whole lockdown period. He owned, I think it's like 3 businesses. He was quite successful. He had his own shops, his own businesses. And one of the days he was coming back, I said, are you psychopathic? I said, are you a psychopath? And he said, I think you have to be, I mean, there was no reservation there.
Yeah.
It's just, I think you have to be. So if you're going to be a businessman, you have to be ruthless.
Yeah.
So there's an element where if you're going to be successful, you have to do the things that nobody else is prepared to do. And so therefore, effectively, he was admitting being a psychopath. But then let's just to bring it back to the three world psyops that, so far as I can tell, have always been in operation. Money, which leads to financial institutions. All right, so we're looking at banks, we're looking at insurers, we're looking at anything commercial, really, effectively. Well, we're not living in a world that's fair financially. If we look at things like interest and usury, that's not fair. Somebody's profiting from your impoverishment. Somebody's profiting from your death. Somebody's profiting from your theft. So if you're insuring your own products, your home, things like that, somebody else is profiting from that.
Yeah.
And okay, they might give you a payout if you tick certain boxes.
Yeah.
But they're always getting payout, right?
Yeah,
they're always going to get the payout, which and so that to me is something that you couldn't do without conscience. I couldn't take some money off somebody for the promise of that if things go wrong, I might give you a little bit of that back. Right? That to me, that's lacking conscience. If we look at the other psyops, authority, for example, statism, then we have a psychopathic level of I'm going to go for a hierarchy. There's a hierarchical structure in government, and the ones making the rules and the policies, again, it goes beyond government, but let's for the sake of argument refer to it as a government and policymakers. They don't care.
Yeah, they don't care that they're taking your rights away.
Well, not really. I mean, a lot of them have now. It's a conflict of interest. They have their fingers in many pies. I'm trying to think of an analogy for that, but they don't really care how it affects the populace as long as they can do it and they can profit from it. And religion, take it for the. I mean, sort of, money and statism is a form of religion anyway, which is mind control to hold back to bring us back into enslavement effectively. But religion, again, that is arguably one of the most psychopathic professions out there. If you are telling somebody that they're going to go to hell if they don't follow a set of rules and commandments from a book that is clearly and obviously erroneous to anybody who's looked at it, and that can go for any religion. I'm not just having to go one religion; it could be any religion. But if you can convince somebody to do your bidding, even though it's wrong, even though it's against conscience, even though the actions of that, those rules, it's going to lead somebody into hardship, it's going to cause harm. That is a psychopathic mindset. So effectively, we are being controlled by psychopaths.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, if we're taking commands and instructions from many of these people who are in positions of power and authority, and we, because of mind control, because we've been subverted to psyops, psychological operations, we effectively don't own our own minds. Therefore, the cause is altered. Our cause is going to be deficient and corrupted. Therefore, the effects of our life on the earth is also going to be corrupted. But if these people hold authority of us, what we are failing to do is hold authority of our own mind. And if we can't hold authority in our own mind, we can't exercise our conscience to its fullest extent. And of course, this is what the psychological operators want us to be, in a state of, that's known as moral relativism, where we believe that rights and the sense of right and wrong even come from the control of other people. Of course, these are things that the truth movement as well needs to understand in a more deeper level. At the end of the day, you could say, if we want the sleepy population to wake up and to understand complex concepts such as, and I said complex,
it's not. I was thinking that when you said that. It's not really though, is it?
It's not even a concept. It's truth. If we can't, but let's just use that term, to help understand the points I'm making. If we can't relate a concept which is fairly complex in its in its nature, because it's, again, just because it's alien to us, it's outside of our paradigm, it's going to be very, very difficult if we, as the interim, the go-between, i.e. the truth movement between truth and the silky population, the truth movement need to get to grips with these terms. We need to know this in a much wider presence of mind. It needs to be embedded into our understanding. Again, this isn't complicated. It's not hard stuff. But as an example, I'd like to think that many viewers are familiar with Mark Passio, whatonearthishappening.com, and his podcast series. He's been prolific
just a bit
with the presentation he's done is outstanding. These are golden nuggets that everybody who wants to be classed as a truther needs to be massively familiar with. So if you're not familiar with that, that is my number one recommendation. Be familiar with natural law, his natural law seminar and his podcast series and his presentation work. And trust me, there's enough material there to keep you going for 10 years easily. So,
especially if you, in order to understand it fully, it's not a case of just watching it or watching 5-minute segments of it, or watching half a video and then just saying, "Oh, I'll come back to it." Like, no, you've got to watch it in full, and then you got to watch it again and again and again. I mean, I did.
Yeah,
what about you? But okay, are we overcomplicating it then? Are we over? Because I don't think it is a complicated matter. I think it is just a case of if you understand the basic precepts of the difference between right and wrong, right? This is the stuff that we should be taught in school. But of course, if we are taught in school, then the controllers, the social engineers, they're going to be at a disadvantage. So they don't want us knowing right and wrong. Exactly. So they convolute it and they give us case law and they give us, oh, well, this is a little bit of a grey area. No, is it causing harm? Yes, right, then it's wrong, then, isn't it? Is it deliberately causing harm? Yes, then it's deliberately wrong, right? So that's a violation of the laws of nature. Can it be? Is it avoidable harm? Is it neglect? Is it things that are caused by a lack of presence, a lack of care? All right, yeah, if that's the case, then you need to be more careful, respectful, right? Things like this, so that you prevent any harms from being done. It's really not that difficult. I mean, okay, there's a lot of there's a lot of facets to it, but at its heart, this is basic stuff that we should be taught by our parents before we even go to school. Don't do to other people what you don't want them to do to you. You know, treat others as you wish to be treated yourself. I mean, this is in the Bible of all places.
Yeah, exactly. It's in every single religion.
Well, it is
slightly different terminology, but do unto others as you would do to yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
But going back to the distinction between right and wrong, and I've mentioned Mark Passio. So Mark Passio has done extensive research amongst the general population, and he's determined that 2/3 of people do not understand the difference between right and wrong.
2/3. Are we talking about the grand population?
Well, statistically, yeah, but you could equate that 2/3 of the population. And I mean, if anyone's listening to this, ask yourself, if you were to define the distinction between right and wrong, what terminology would you use? How would you define it? And if you can't define it, or you're struggling to define that, well, either we don't or you don't fully know. And if we don't know, it's possibly because we've been subverted to indoctrination and brainwashing and basically just fed false ideologies through their variety of different systems, including education, religion, government.
Well, take the word ideology, for example. It's just another form of belief.
Exactly.
Right? It's just the only difference is it's not a religious belief. It's a status belief. It's an authoritarian governmental belief. That's the only difference. So it's still a belief system.
But that number, by the way, 2/3, that equates to, if you would put that in a percentage, that's 66.6%, which I don't think many people outside of the internet are unfamiliar with. Everybody knows it's the number of the beast.
Or is it?
Well, exactly. But you could generalize that as being the number of the beast. And if you were to take that, well, what does it actually mean? If you were to boil that down philosophically, what does it mean? Well, 6 is the number of ignorance. And if we, and everything in the occult realm, comes in, you know, the number 3 is massively important.
33s especially.
Yeah. So one way we can sort of interface with the earth is by 3 means: thoughts, emotions, and actions.
Christmas.
Thoughts, emotions, and actions. So if 6 is the number of ignorance, ignorant thoughts, ignorant emotions, and ignorant actions. And that number, by the way, the number 3, tri, relates to something called the trivium, the trivium. The trivium is the pathway to truth. And again, the trivium, how many truthers out there are familiar with the trivium, even as a word? What would you say, Nathan? Do you think it's something that truthers are generally aware of?
I'm going to say it's a trigger point of mine specifically because it goes directly into what I was saying about critical thinking.
Yeah.
Right? You cannot be a critical thinker unless you understand the processes of thinking. Yeah. And the trivium outlines that and defines it very, very simply as grammar, logic, and rhetoric. So for anybody who's familiar with the Greek and the Latin system of trivium, it's grammar, logic, rhetoric. And there's a whole load of, yes, okay, you can apply languages to that and rules of languages, but effectively what it's getting at is the way that you understand the world and how that affects you, and then how you put your actions and behaviors back out into the world from what you've learned. So as simple as it gets, it's a process of input, process, output, right? You're taking information in. If you have good information, then you're going to process that and you're going to have a good output.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the trivium. It's a very, very simplified version of it, but input, process, output. Knowledge, information, wisdom, or information, knowledge, wisdom, right? It's how we understand the world. So there's a saying, garbage in, garbage out. Okay, well, quality in, quality out. And this is I guess what we're trying to get at, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
If we can discern correctly, if we can look at information in terms of objective, provable data sets, and we can understand that for what it is, and we can apply that correctly, then that's a good foundation. That's a good solid foundation for going forward. Unfortunately, we don't have that process anymore. Most people don't go through that. A lot of the information that's going, to be fair to them, they are being bombarded by information these days, and it is difficult to discern what you're being subjected to. So a lot of people are getting false information. They are getting fake news. They are getting fake concepts. They're getting new age concepts. There's tons of stuff out there that they're feeding into their brain, and of course they're going to take this, and if they don't have the rational tools to discern properly, to judge the difference between what's factual and what's not, if they don't know the history, for example, a lot of people are going to come out with false conclusions about history.
Yeah, exactly. One great example, I suppose, is if we are unfamiliar with the occult realm, the understanding, the knowledge of the occult realm, the spiritual laws of nature, such as the Hermetic principles, the 7 Hermetic principles, if we don't understand that, as an example, so the truth movement, we don't understand the Hermetic principles, what we therefore can't do is have a full appreciation on how the world works. So therefore we're left with a skewed judgment, and we base our actions on the understanding that we have. And if our actions result from poor format and poor input, then the output that we produce is going to be limited or poor as a result. So again, if we can ignore the occult by thinking it's all about evil, so we should just avoid it. So what we're doing is effectively giving ourselves a very poor understanding of how the world works. And well, as we can see, if we look outside the world, the window today, we can see the world's in quite a state of chaos, disorder, violence, upheaval, and
extremism and imbalance. I would say that we're massively imbalanced.
Yeah. So fundamentally, we as a movement, I say the truth movement, but the world essentially needs to embrace the knowledge of the occult. So one way they can do that is by reading Fake Awake, for example.
Well, I'm gonna do that. So just to okay. So we're reading from this. I'm reading from chapter 4. So
Okay.
I said we'd come back to this. And I think we should be, because we're basically
The
skirting
number
around
of creation.
okay, 4, the number of creation. Well, we can go into numerology 4 because there's so many occult references to that. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I mean, especially then 6 and 12. Anyway, so I mentioned the 7 deadly mindsets earlier. Okay, so I think instead of skirting around them anymore, and we keep going into this, right? So the first of the 7 deadly mindsets, I think we'll go through this.
Yeah,
we'll have a chat about it, right? Is ignorance, right? So ignorance, to me, I understand that as the world's greatest sin. It is the original sin because from ignorance, all other problems occur. It is from ignorance. It is from ignoring things, ignoring how things work, ignoring information, ignoring knowledge, ignoring the wisdom that's been passed down to us from previous generations, ignoring how the universe works, ignoring the rules and the principles of how reality works, and things like that. Okay, so these are objective things. These are set in nature. If we choose to ignore them, then who's to blame? Who's primarily responsible for that? Because it could only be yourself. If you're choosing to ignore something, that's a conscious act that only the individual can do. I mean, okay, governments can ignore problems, yeah, but essentially governments are made up of individuals, and individuals are the ones, right? Okay. So I'm going to read from a book. So I've put ignorance of natural law and objective morality is primarily the cause of all of the problems. So ignorance of the occult and objective reason, ignorance of fact, ignorance of truth and evidence in favor of personal opinion is where these is where the problems occur. So what I'm talking about there is that if we choose to ignore things that are important because of our own personal preference, belief, ideology, things that we enjoy, etc., that's on us. That's never going to yield positive results. That can only go in one direction, which is error, chaos, harm. It's to me that speaks for itself. It's a very, very basic concept. I mean, look at the Garden of Eden, and I'm going to twist the Bible a bit here. If we look at the whole serpent in the tree of good and evil, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Well, Adam and Eve didn't know what they were doing because they didn't have the knowledge. And so what we're taking from this is that they were in ignorance. So they took a bite of the apple through an act of ignorance. I would say that was a bite of, they were taking a bite of the apple was an act of curiosity. So they chose no longer to ignore. They chose to ignore the will of their God, if you like. Don't touch the tree. However, but then their curiosity takes over, and it's like, well, they're not ignoring it, are they? They're investigating it. They've been told not to eat it. Well, okay, why? And the serpent says, well, you won't die. You will not surely die. You will not certainly die. And they didn't. Okay, so then their minds have been opened so that they become as gods, right? So there's that. So if you want to take it back to a biblical account, I mean, you could look at it from one of two perspectives. One, do as your evil overlord God commands and don't question anything. Or you could just choose to investigate for yourself and broaden your mind, open your mind, and figure things out. So take a bite of the apple, for example. I'm going to get accused of all sorts of that. But what I'm saying is, ignorance never leads to good outcomes. Right? So that's the first of the 7 deadly mindsets. You got anything to add to that, Steve?
Well, do you know what? It's not really massively relevant, but it's an interesting curiosity, a correspondence, you could say. When you mention apple, well, let's just think, where is the Big Apple? The Big Apple is New York, and New York in a gematria calculator will render the number 666. So that's an interesting point, but I think you've explained that really nicely, Nathan.
I don't know what I could add to that. I mean, we could go on a Statue of Liberty, Freemasonic references, and
I think we should get some, as we progress through these takeaway podcasts, we should throw in snippets of, these correspondences and synchromysticism.
But there's so many.
Yeah, there's.
No, to be fair, I mean, okay, so just to differentiate this podcast from our other podcasts. We've got 2 podcast series on the go at the minute. So our other podcast series is Occult Academy, the Occult Academy. We have a group to back that up, and we look at all aspects of the occult. you're prolific in that group anyway, and you're practically running it yourself at the minute.
Yeah.
So this is a different take on this. So the current podcast is dealing with Fake Awake. We're looking at different aspects of it. We're looking at the truth community specifically to see that, why are we failing as a movement? Why are we failing to make positive impacts in the world? Why are we failing to remove the problem?
Yeah, exactly.
And the problem is effectively we're not looking in the right place. Our minds are not open to it. We're not looking at the root cause. And then save repeating ourselves. We're not looking at the causal factors.
I mean, just to embellish what you're saying there, a lot of people in the truth movement, and a lot of people will say we need unity. So what we're offering, Nathan, is unity. And unity through. I mean, again, you could say, well, this is just a cheap dig to promote our book. Yeah, you could say that, but equally, this has got the answers and the solutions that we are looking for. So if we get behind this in terms of unity of purpose, well, we cover the causal factors, we cover all the essential elements of the occult secrets of the microcosm and the macrocosm, the human mind and the wider universe. If we covered that, you've got a great compendium of information in order to make an impact upon the world for the better.
Well, I'm gonna add to that. So people have said to me before I published it, because I was determined to get this work out. I mean, people say, "Oh, you're going to get it published," and people won't buy it. And I'm like, okay, fine. That's not why I did it. So you asked me earlier what's the reason behind Fake Awake? The idea behind Fake Awake is that there is a body of knowledge out there that I think has been largely ignored. That if we can take that and understand it and apply it, there's the trivium process again, then that will yield massively positive results in society.
Yeah.
I wrote this almost as a manual as to how to think properly, how to think critically, how to observe the world around you, and looking at it from a psychological, philosophical aspect to apply it correctly, to understand things correctly. All right. So that's the reason behind it. I don't care if it sells 3 copies. Well, I do. I mean, I'd like to. Okay, I do care. Please buy the book. What I'm saying is, I would still have written it.
Yeah.
Even if I knew that there was only going to be 3 copies sold. And the reason that I say that is because it's a compendium of knowledge that I've built up over I think 12 years. I think it's a gradual build-up of knowledge, but it's knowledge that I've been able to look at and go, well, hang on a minute, is this true? Is it really true?
Yeah.
What's behind it? Why are we being told these things? Why are we looking at this kind of information? What is it doing to us?
Yeah.
Now, taking it back to what you've just said there, and I've said this a lot. I think we've both hammered this in certain groups that we've been associated with on social media and things like that. Unity of purpose, right? And this is essential to anything. Okay, so sovereignty and freedom is absolutely essential. And the only way you're going to do that, the only way you're going to enforce objective, morally right and wrong, to understand that, to enforce it through society, is to band together, right? We cannot do this unless we're on the same page. I know there's a lot of people that think they've got the solutions. I get that. We've got a friend who does a podcast, Eric Von Essex, I'll give him a shout out, who thinks that everything is caused by usury. He thinks that all the world's problems are caused by usury. All right, my argument to that is, and this is no disrespect to Eric, remove usury, does the problem still persist? Yes, it will. There'll always be psychopaths vying for power and manipulation and authority over others. They will find another way. So that is not the root cause.
Yeah.
All right. So if we are going to band together, it can't be banding together to ban usury, because that's not the root cause, and therefore it's never going to be the total solution.
No.
Should it be banned? Is it a good thing? That's okay. I would say that it probably should be banned. It probably should be outlawed. It's impoverishing people. It is a problem. It is a symptom of a greater problem.
Yeah.
All right. Other people will tell me that actually, no, it's all about, health. It's all about eating healthy. It's all about taking care of your body and exercise. Okay, brilliant. These are good things. A healthy mind, healthy body, healthy mind. So what one will help the other to progress forward. This is what the shadow work's about. This is what personal improvement's about. Great. Do those things, because you're starting to work it internally, and you'll put the output that you're putting out because of that is going to be an improvement. It's going to be better. But is eating healthy and jogging around or lifting weights or mountain climbing, is that going to solve the root cause? Is that going to solve the problem that is enslaving us? No, it's not. It's not. It's not the root cause. Is it going to help? Absolutely, it is. Yeah. Is it part of a wider solution? Yes, but then why are we not healthy? All right, if it's about health, the root cause then should be about looking at why we're not healthy. What's behind that? Is it deliberate? Yes, it is. Why are things being kept from us? Why in 2025, with our super duper mental health and physical healthcare systems, and our hospitals and all this technology that we've got and all this medical knowledge that we've got, if it is so good and it is so effective, why is half the world suffering from the big K? Why are people still dying from heart disease? Why are people still dying from mental health disorders? Why is there a massive increase in things like ADHD and autism and things like this? Is not the product of a healthy society.
Exactly.
All right. So to me, it's a symptom of the problem, but what is the root cause? Well, the root cause goes back to morality. Is it right to sell people drugs that are going to keep them ill? Right? Yeah. No, it's not. So can you blame it on pharmaceuticals? Yes, you can. But who's behind the pharmaceuticals? What's the mindset behind the pharmaceutical industry? Exactly. Selling you the drugs to keep you ill so that you can keep them in profit.
And this, of course, relates to the three, huge psyops: statism, religion, and money.
All three of them are embedded within the health industry.
And I think one common thing, again, to address is the fact that a lot of people, particularly in the truth community, will brandish the root cause to being behind one particular small nation in the Middle East.
Can I say this, Lisa?
I don't know I don't even know if you can say these terms on.
I mean, I suspect if we're talking about historical, let's put it in a historical concept, right? So are we perhaps talking about an area in the Middle East that the Bible is perhaps set around?
Yeah, exactly.
That it's linked to the Crusades, for example.
Yeah, it's linked to three the pantheon of gods: Isis, Ra, and El.
It's interesting.
Yeah, but it's probably a topic of another conversation, because I think we'll talk about some of the more of the deadly mindsets.
Yeah, before we get
carried away.
And I think it's essential that we actually say that we don't have a problem with
that particular pantheon of gods.
Let's leave it at that for now. We can come to that before we get bloody crucified from both sides. But anyway, okay. So we've talked about the first of the seven deadly mindsets, right? And again, this is where humanity, but as far as I can see, when I wrote this, I thought, well, what are the root causes of things going wrong, right? Ignorance, number one. Secondly, we've discussed it a little bit, which is belief. And I've put here the formulation of belief based on personal opinion or experience and discounting evidence or information to the contrary. That is the basic precept of belief. Belief is choosing to accept something as true, or choosing to accept something into your life, regardless of its merits, regardless as to whether it's true or false, regardless as to whether there's any evidence or facts to back it up. You are choosing to believe something because it sounds good, because it feels good, because it makes you feel better, because it gives you hope. And I get needing hope. I think it's fair to say that we all need a bit of that. Fine. Going back to the earlier mantra, belief is the enemy of knowing. If you don't know it, then why are you believing it? And if you believe it, then you don't know it. By default, if you believe in something, you cannot know it, in which case you are not dealing with truth. You're dealing with a mental illness. You're dealing with an imbalance. You're dealing with something that is not quite right. And that's not an attack on religion. I'm probably going to be accused of that anyway. It's not. It's not an attack on religion. Listen,
we're doing that next week.
We're doing that. And for the next 6 months, we have to behave ourselves, Steve.
Sorry.
So, but to be fair, listen, I like religion. Yeah. It gives me a wealth and abundance of talking points. I do. I love delving into Christianity. I love delving into Buddhism, things like that. My God, there's so much philosophy and history in those things. Yeah, okay. Happy to discuss it. If you take the Bible, the Christian Bible, the Jewish Torah, things like that, okay, fine, take those bodies of work. What have you got? It's a library of information. But there's a lot of contradictions embedded within that library of information, which means that if you have something that directly counteracts the truth of another account, of the same, dealing with the same thing. And what effectively you're dealing with is it can't be true. It can't be true. If one thing is directly contradicting another thing based on the same narrative, logic tells you that one of those narratives must be false.
Mm-hmm.
The Bible is full of this, right? And I mean, it's absolutely replete. And people, this is where we get apologies from. This is where we get apologists saying, "Oh, yeah, but it's interpretation. Oh, but it's how you understand it. Oh, but God works in mysterious ways." All right, but the human mind works on logic and emotion, and at the minute, the belief taps into your emotion. And if you're reacting emotionally by default, you're not thinking rationally. And if you're not thinking rationally, then how can you be expected to come out with rational, with correct results? Going back to the trivia method, garbage in, garbage out. All right. So if you're feeding your mind with beliefs and hopium, then that's what you're going to put out into the world. And unfortunately, it's one of the biggest problems in the world ever.
Yeah. I mean, Mark Passio as well, he actually states that quite succinctly, that religion is the greatest enemy of mankind.
But again, let's look at the word of religion. To hold back, to bind back. People says, "Oh, it means to do again." No, it means to hold you back again.
Yeah.
Right. It's to put you in chains. It's to put your mind, your spirituality in chains. What look at religion. What does it do? What's the number one thing that it does to people? People say it gives them hope. I disagree. I think it does something else to them. I think it gives them fear.
Yeah, I mean, there's a fear that you have to comply, even if it's just with the social networks of your church leaders and elders and the congregation and all of these values. That, I mean, there's many positive things about church and religion.
Yeah, there is,
and we're not here to denounce that at all, are we, Nathan? But we've got to be realistic, because what we want to do is change the world. And if we're not set out on changing the world, I mean, obviously, to change the world means we're going to upset a few people, and we're going to challenge a few people's beliefs and sentiments here.
All right, I'm going to add to that as well then. Right. So that is our mission. That's Passio's mission. That's David Icke's mission. Anybody who's genuinely into truth research and getting that information out is there to change the world for the better. It's to leave a positive impact, right? I think we can get behind that.
Yeah.
All right. So what do we need to remove from there? We need to remove fear. We need to remove, fear of doing nothing, fear of what happens to you in an afterlife because of your belief. Oh my God, I'm going to go to hell because I didn't do this thing that was said in a book that was written 3,000 years ago from some guy who wrote it and then had it edited 300 times.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, right. Remove the fear then. All right. I think that's essential. Again, unity of purpose goes back into that.
Yeah.
And I've completely forgotten your bloody question.
Well, I think we're ready for the third part of the deadly mindset. So I think we should look at that, the third part of the mindset.
All right. So I'm going as we do this, I'm going to go through each of them again, right? So first deadly mindset, ignorance or ignorance. Second deadly mindset, building off of ignorance, is belief, which is to ignore the truth, to ignore the evidence, to ignore the facts, which then leads into arrogance. Okay, I'm going to read from the old book after being under the influence of this very lovely whiskey of yours.
Yeah.
Right. Arrogance, the belief that your own opinion is always right, reinforcing your positive superiority, heightiness, self-righteousness, overconfidence, and acting in accordance with your ego. So there we go. We've got labels and ego identifications, which was discussed in Mark's podcast. It wasn't a podcast; it was a seminar. Again, arrogance and ego goes hand in hand. Also, the mental state of being stubborn, inflexible, pushy, unwilling to compromise or to challenge your own opinions and beliefs. Effectively, it is a rigidity of the mind. It is an inability to compromise. It's an inability to look at things from an external or an alternative perspective. I'm coming up with some really weird pronunciations here, Steve. I don't know what could possibly be called.
It's not the whiskey.
It's definitely not the whiskey that we're teleporting from house to house here. So arrogance is one of those things that I would and have constantly said reinforces ignorance. It reinforces belief. It's absolutely necessary to crystallize those previous two mindsets. And unfortunately, when we go around, it doesn't matter where you go, you are going to find arrogant people everywhere. I'm right.
Yeah.
You're wrong. All right. Well, hold on. No, no, no. I'm right. You're wrong. And this is why. Bang, 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 bang. And if it's a belief, they'll hammer you with a belief.
Yeah.
If it's a religious, idea, a philosophical idea, if it's a political idea, my God, we need this policy and that policy because of bang, 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 bang. No, I won't hear it from that perspective because the other side gets it wrong all the time. No, stop, take a step back, and just think, well, hang on a minute, is the message that I'm pushing correct? Is the message that I'm pushing kind and appropriate? Is it feeding into ego? Is it feeding into emotional states? Or are we dealing with cold hard fact and logic? Are we dealing with rationality? Are we dealing with it from a balanced perspective, a balanced outlook? If you have arrogance as a personality trait, and I think we all do to a certain extent, if I'm being fair, what you're effectively saying, what you're putting out there is, I'm not willing to look at things from a different perspective. One of the chief messages from Jesus, the character in the Bible, let's take this, is metanoia. Change your perspective. It's one of the absolute fundamental messages in the New Testament. Change the way that you look at things, change your behaviors, look within.
Yeah.
Right? Is the kingdom of God not within? All right. Well, if the kingdom of God is within, and we don't have the introspection, we don't have the presence of mind to start investigating that, to look within, to challenge our own things, thoughts and behaviors, and preferences and things like that. We're never gonna change it. If we don't change, then, as David Icke would say quite aptly, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got.
Yeah.
In other words, no change can occur from arrogance. So what I'm advocating then is drop the ego. Everyone's got an ego. I've got an ego. You've got an ego. It's not a bad thing. The whole New Age movement will say to people, "Oh, I've got no ego," and yet you'll find that these people are the ones with the most crystallized egos going.
Yeah.
They're the most pushy, the most manipulative, the most closed-minded.
Yeah.
I'm not saying get rid of your ego. I'm saying drop your label attachment. Drop your pre-existing preferences to things that you've never addressed, that you've never challenged, right?
Especially when, we've got to consider that when we hear the term Satan, well, Satan is actually, and again, I'm not going to go through a whole load of waffle to prove this conclusion, but Satan in religious scripture is an expression of man's ego, of lower consciousness and ego-based desires, selfishness.
All right,
we can't live without ego. We can't function without the ego. But what we need to do is we need to control it. We need to master it, so to speak, by putting, the truth before our own desires, so to speak.
Well, how do you do that though? I mean, it's quite easy. I mean, to me, to control your ego, you must first be aware of it, which means you've got to accept it, right? So to say that you've got no ego, then you've got a bit of a problem, really,
exactly.
Because you're lying to yourself first and foremost. Of course, you've got an ego, because without it, you're not driven. You won't achieve anything. You won't get out of bed in the morning. Your ego drives those things, all right. But when your ego is in the driving seat, that's when it needs to be pulled back, to be checked, to be brought back into perspective. To look at it again, respect.
I mean, just to go back on the word arrogance as well. If we accept natural law, and again, I can understand not everybody listening in will fully understand and appreciate what natural law is, but essentially, if it is the laws, the governing dynamics of the universe, written or crafted by the hands of the creator, we must be quite arrogant as a species not to accept it. If we think we know better than the person, the deity, the energy, the whatever that created the universe, And let's face it, certainly wasn't the government. It certainly wasn't.
I think they wish. I think they're trying to convince us that they are.
Exactly. But I mean, in fairness, that's what we must believe in our minds, because if we can't appreciate the laws of nature written by whatever built the universe, then, and we put the government before that, well, are we not bananas? I mean, who's been drinking here?
Not me.
Because fair enough, we've had a little bit of neck oil, but I'm not arrogant enough to discount that the universe was created by something that isn't the government, and it certainly wasn't you or I. Therefore, whatever it is, I think we should pay respect to the fact that something bigger than us has been responsible for what we see all around us, the majesty of our creation.
Do you know what, Steve? I like that, actually.
Yeah, I'm going to drink to that.
Well, I will drink to that, actually. I often get accused of being an atheist, and I'm genuinely not. I absolutely accept that there is a creator or a creative force.
Yeah.
I just don't accept that it's this small version, man-made concept that is erroneous. Right? Something that creates everything is superior to everything. Right? And we are a part of that. Okay, so I like, from that perspective, I absolutely accept God. But is it not disrespectful to them, to that God, to that creative force, to think that we know better, to think that we know how it all works? What? Human beings on a tiny planet, on a whatever countless amount of solar systems, to think that we know how it all works because of something somebody wrote 6,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago. Really?
It's like, it's almost, I mean, on a small scale, it's almost like telling, Leonardo da Vinci that your stick man picture with, is much better than his majestic art pieces.
Saying that, Leonardo da Vinci was an initiate in the mystery schools, and he knew his stuff, I think.
Yes, apparently so.
But again, it is disrespectful to A, think that you know better than the creator, and to B, blatantly ignore the mechanism of creation. Right? He's put that the universe, God, the consciousness, the unity, the all, that divine flow of energy, that divine consciousness that is everything, that divine mind. It is rude of us to discount what is there in front of our very eyes that makes sense. All it takes is a little bit of investigation. It is rude and disrespectful to that creative force that is superior to everything to say that's evil because of what it's called. That's evil because it comes under the banner of the occult. Well, guess what else comes under the banner of the occult? Religion. Ooh. But your church tells you not to look at the occult because it's evil. Don't question, just believe. I'm going to go off on a rampage if I go there, Steve. Stop, right? You're going to have to stop.
Come on, let's go on to it's number 4.
Number 4. Right, okay. So again, this is a massive one that affects the truth community specifically, right? Which is poor or lack of discernment. When we're talking about discernment, we're talking about judgment. I often get accused of being judgmental. Right, as you do. Do you know my response to that?
What?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah,
I absolutely am. Yes, I'm judgmental. However, caveat incoming. Everybody is. And I know that everybody's judgmental because they've all got their own opinions and beliefs. They've all got their own mindset, their own worldview, which is where arrogance comes in. Okay, so if we are going to judge others, by what standard are we judging them from? But I would say everybody, and I mean everybody, judges at all times. This is part of your ego, not the negative ego that the New Age think that you need to get rid of. This is a part of your ego that is able to say, right, this is information. What am I going to do with it? All right, so I'll read what I've put for this. So poor or lack of discernment. Incapable of using reason or judgment to formulate a balanced, impartial, or objective look at any of the information or evidence that may run counter to a specific narrative. I mean, that in and of itself, you know, which includes opinions and beliefs. Being incapable or unwilling of determining fact from fiction, which is again why we fall for psyops. And even though necessary information is freely available, we choose to ignore it. Right? So poor or lack of discernment is what I'm saying there is it's poor judgment. I'm going to reiterate the previous four, right?
Yeah.
Ignorance, poor judgment. Belief, poor judgment. Arrogance, rigid, incapable of seeing things from an alternative perspective. Poor judgment.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, go on. Add to that. Show me where I'm right or wrong.
I massively. I mean, I would massively agree with all of these. I mean, one thing I will often say is we need to have a mental revolution.
Oh, I like that.
So we need a paradigm shift. We need to change the nature of our reality, which is currently kind of aligned to the ideologies of Satanism. And again, I'm not wanting to sound too kind of negative and gloomy on this podcast, but the world kind of sucks in a lot of respects.
I'm going to break my own rule, Steve. I'm going to break my own rule of positivity for 6 months. Right, okay. Is it negative to point out problems? Is it negative to point out negativity?
Well, I don't think so, but other people do. And obviously we want to appeal to other people. So,
we do. But the thing is, what we're doing here is we're trying to appeal to reason, right? We're trying to appeal. We're not trying to offend. I mean, this is going to offend. This is always going to offend. But we're not trying to do that. That's not our objective. It's not what we're trying to do. It's just the outcome of people not listening. Okay, that's as simple as it is. Listen to the information. Go away. Think about it. Process it. Challenge it. Write it down. Try and argue with it. Please do. We want you to do this. We want you to think. This is the whole point of this, is to start thinking for yourself. Be critical of yourself. All right? I don't have a problem with that.
No, not at all.
Anyway, continue. So
well, I mean, just going back to a mental revolution. In order to have a mental revolution, well, that needs to start in the mind. So that needs to start in the mind, and for that to revolve, there needs to be some sort of motion set in place in order to get that. So some of this, in other words, if we look at the Trivium, for example, it starts with the input of knowledge. So knowledge needs to be generated, it needs to be gathered, and that knowledge then needs to gather momentum, and it needs to pass hands, it needs to be spoken, it needs to be passed by various media channels, not conspiracies.
Agreed.
I mean, the conspiracies are great. This is what we've got to start looking at, well, what keeps us motivated, what kind of triggers us into being truthers. One thing you could say is, well, looking at the craziness, the complexities of some of these conspiracies, bear in mind, these things are going to last forever. These things are never going to go away. There's going to be a new conspiracy next week, then the week after.
There's always a conspiracy.
Yeah, in fact, I'd almost say there's a conspiracy every time the occult calendar reaches a specific date in the year. Guaranteed. In reality, that's the only time I ever put the news on certain dates. I've not watched the news for, I'm going to say it's over 10 years, and it's probably closer to 15 years.
Oh, well done.
Simply because, I mean, I'm not saying I was massively awake back then, but what I'm saying is I realized BS when I could smell it, and as soon as I switched the TV on, it was complete horse manure. Now, I know you know.
Swear freely, mate. It's us. It's
well, exactly. But so, for the benefit of, again, of viewership, I used to work for the Gubber Scum. At a significant level. I used to be in the military, and even back then I realized that what I was listening to in the news was complete horse manure, absolute BS. That was, before I was awake, before I realized that the way the world was changing for the worst, while I was still engaged in the illusion of government, that government had the rightful authority. Okay, but that's maybe subject of another conversation. But even back then, I didn't watch the news, not watched it for many years. The only time I do watch it is certain dates in the occult calendar, because there's always some sort of ritual that's
you're looking for the symbolism. You're looking for the
dates,
the
numbers, symbols, names, all sorts of weird and wonderful things come out. But that's never ever going to go away. What we need to do is not so much forget about, but not be distracted by that. We need clarity, and we need to. I mean, I call this focused education, precision education, where we learn the things that are going to shape the world for the better. And that is knowledge of the occult, which leads to an understanding of natural law and objective morality. So on our other venture, which is called the Occult Academy, we literally talk about freedom under natural law. Freedom is obtainable under natural law, period. The end. If we can grasp freedom from another way, well, I'd love to see the equation for that, but there is an equation of freedom, which is as morality improves, freedom improves. As morality declines, freedom declines. If we understand that very simple concept, then we understand that the way to be free is to improve upon morality. And that starts with the individual. So the people listen to this, do what you need to do to improve your level of morality. And one simple thing that I say simple thing, one thing that traps or trips many people up is the belief in authority. We believe that the government have got the God-given right to rule and dictate the terms and conditions of our lives. This is all absolute garbage. There's no rightful authority given to the hands of government. It's only what we allow them to have.
Can I just? I'm going to jump in here.
Yeah, go for it.
So when we talk about unity of purpose, and we've been in so many arguments with this in certain groups, and people, well, it's not the solution. Actually, yes, it is, because if we look at the most important thing to your life, to my life, to everybody else's life out there, it's freedom. And people say, "Oh, that's not the most important." Yes, it is. It is. Freedom of speech. Do you want to be able to say what you like, even if it's offensive, right?
Without getting arrested.
Without getting arrested. but again, this is a fundamental freedom. If one person loses the right to freedom of speech, we've all lost it. If somebody starts to be said, "No, I'm not." Obviously, there are things out there that should be dealt with carefully and with caution. Okay, fine, but freedom of speech is essential. Freedom of thought is essential. Who said that you can't think your thoughts?
Yeah, exactly.
Where's the authority on that? Church and Parliament? No thanks. You don't get to dictate what I think. You don't have that right. You don't take that sovereignty from me. I'm not giving it to you. All right. So freedom of speech, freedom of thought, freedom of movement. Well, a lot of people like to drive around. A lot of people like to go on holiday. A lot of people like to go and see their friends, like I'm doing today with Steve. Okay, so I like to come and visit you. I couldn't do that if I didn't have freedom of movement. We couldn't have a podcast if we didn't have freedom of speech and freedom of thought. And obviously, there's a massive censorship run against us now. So we now have to be careful what we say. Otherwise, we get arrested. Well, by 2025. It's crazy. All right. Fundamental freedoms. The freedom of association, the freedom to be with who you want to be with, to speak who you want to be with, to go where you want to be with. These are fundamental freedoms. There is no harm that comes from that unless you start violating the rights of others. The government is currently violating our rights of freedom. It is taking them from us. It is telling us that we can't say certain things, that we can't think certain things, that this is thought crime. This is Orwellian dictatorship. Exactly. That we can't go where we want. We have to be restricted to 15-minute cities. We're not allowed to drive because it's bad for the environment, says the people currently destroying the environment in massive ways. And that's a massive trigger point. Yeah. So, all right, back to the point, and I've got a point here. You want to talk about unity of purpose. Your purpose is freedom. There is no other purpose. Truth doesn't matter if you can't speak it. You know, what good is knowing the truth if you're not allowed to use it, to know it, to spread it to other people? Truth is essential, but your freedom is more essential. Your freedom is the point which we should all be fighting for. Anything that restricts your freedoms is restricting your rights as a human being, as a sovereign being.
Yeah.
Anyone that claims that they can take that from you is your enemy. They are tyrants.
I think it'd be worth adding to that there was a wise man, the name of Jeremy Locke, who wrote a book called The End of All Evil. And this is one of the massive, certainly one of the recommendations that I give practically with every presentation I've done is to read this book. It's very expensive. It's almost unobtainable as a hard copy.
Have you got it?
No, it's almost unobtainable as a hard copy, but it's only 90 odd pages long. You can read it in an afternoon, but it's freely available on PDF if you go online. It's called The End of All Evil by Jeremy Locke.
Can I actually add to that for anybody? So I don't know whether it's on there. I might be wrong, but YouTube, as troublesome as it is in certain respects, if anyone is interested in reading that particular book, I suspect a quick YouTube search for that might yield the result.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't even have to read it. Listen to it. Go put, wash the pots, do, play
it's available as an audio
Yeah.
file as well. YouTube will probably have that on.
Yeah.
But the author actually had a quote which was evil. To define evil, he said, "Evil is the destruction of freedom."
Amen.
So evil is the destruction of freedom. So if we want to live in a world which isn't, spoiled by elements of evil, then we have to aim for freedom. And as I've alluded to earlier, the law of freedom states that freedom is
sorry, I'm going to help you out here. As morality increases, freedom increases. As morality declines, freedom declines. This is directly proportional.
Exactly.
This is provable. It is observable. It is repeatable. You want a scientific method? There you have it. There's the equation of freedom.
And morality are intertwined.
Yeah.
And if we, excuse me, if we don't understand the root cause, which is immorality, if we don't address the root cause, then we are barking up the wrong tree. So we want freedom, we need to address morality in society. And that, as I said earlier, that starts with ourselves, and that needs to be promoted to other people.
Yeah. Which is what we are hopefully doing. Again, the other thing is I get accused of not explaining it properly. Well, only certain people say that, actually. A lot of people say explain things quite well. But okay, if I'm not explaining it properly, find someone who does.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, this is not difficult. Our unity of purpose, our purpose is freedom, because without it, you've got nothing. So unify behind that. Anything that attempts to take your freedom, that is what your enemy is. That is where your focus should be now, because without freedom, you've got nothing. Yeah. You have no sovereignty. You have no choice. You have no will. You have no rights. Without your freedom, all of that goes. And without morality, you have no freedom. So now we're looking at the root cause.
Well, do you know what? We've talked, what are the things that are holding us back from that? And I know you've mentioned one of the four things. We've got the fifth element of the deadly mindsets holding us back from freedom.
Well, we're going to love this one then. So, presumption. All right. So I said I'm going to go through them each in turn. Right. So 7 deadly mindsets. 1, ignorance. 2, belief, which is built on the back of ignorance. 3, arrogance, which enforces belief in ignorance. 4, lack or poor discernment, which again feeds into bad judgment, which the previous 3 fall under that category. The fifth of the 7 deadly the fifth of the 7 deadly mindsets is presumption. And this is huge. And again, I'm going to blow my own trumpet here. I'm going to get really excited. All right, I'll read you.
Read it out.
Okay. Presumption is the belief that something is so because you believe it to be so, without checking for facts or evidence. The mental state of guessing, assuming, or accepting something to be true based on personal experience, perception, or opinion. So what we're dealing with in terms of presumption is subjective thoughts and actions and behaviors. So subjective is the opposite of objective. So that which is objective is true, right? It is observable, repeatable, etc. Right? You can see this, you can measure it, you can test it, you can challenge it, and it will always come back as true. That is objectivity. Presumption is guesswork, which is almost akin to belief, right? It is I assume or I presume that something to be true or something to be the case because why? Because I want it to be, maybe, So, just to reiterate, so the fifth of the seven deadly mindsets is presumption, to presume that something is so, without challenge, without judgment, without full investigation. Steve, go for it. What you got?
Yeah, I don't. Do you know what? I think if I was to add anything to that, it would probably be things I've already covered so far.
Well, reiterate, because this message is important. We want to get it out there. It needs to get out there. So if we have to repeat it,
again, I mean, I'm kind of drawn to the fact simply because I hear this such a lot, particularly in recent times, that there's a certain group of individuals from a certain nation, as I alluded to earlier, the small country in the Middle East, which is responsible for everything. Now, of course,
is it though? I mean,
well,
I'm going to argue that it can only get away with things if it's allowed to get away with things.
Exactly.
But anyway,
and I think a lot of people forget this fact.
Yeah.
So we're quick to jump on, well, it was the such and such, a group of individuals with a four-letter word. It was these people behind it all. Well, to me, I mean, and I come from a military background, so if we done anything in terms of planning a future operation, for example, we would ask questions. One of those questions is, so what? So what if it was this group of people? What? And that would lead us to a course of inquiry to draw upon or to extract certain information. It was this group of people. The so what of that is, well, does that mean everybody else can just carry on as before? Can we just forget about morality because it was all to do with this small nation and a small group of people from this country who are probably less than 1% of the entire population of the earth? The so what of that? Well, no. The so what of that is no. We are all responsible for the mess we're in. Every single one of us, because we have all, including myself, we have all contributed to the behaviors and actions that have brought about our current condition. This is the aggregate of the situation is everybody has elements of immoral behaviors, whether that's just supporting or funding government, for example, or believing in this body of people, believing that these people can do the things that they do, which are largely, I'm not saying everything they do is immoral, but if you're dropping bombs on people, you're killing people, well, that's pretty immoral. And that's something I used to do for a job, incidentally. That was my job as a soldier, a soldier, to murder people for a job. So I've been in this position of, probably the most immoral place that a human being could possibly be. So we need to change that situation we need to get on board. And for the benefit of people listening to this, I stopped being a soul dead individual when I learned the occult. When I learned the occult and I learned about morality, I realized that my position in there was immoral, and nothing I got paid or told to do by a government or my superiors could override the elements of nature. My superior officers could not tell me above and beyond what the laws of creation could tell me. So therefore, we have to default to the laws of nature, natural law. So for those who think the occult is evil, well, the occult stopped me being an evil human being.
Right, okay, I want to add to that. Right, so this is probably good. If Mark Passio ever watches this, just hear me out. Just hear me out, because I agree with you. Right, okay. So you were a former soldier.
Mm.
You have had discipline, you've had training, you've had combat experience, you've had travel, all of these things. Now, I would say that has contributed to the person that you are now.
Yeah.
Right. I would say that has served an ideal fucking role to producing this kind of content, to producing this kind of output, to writing in the books that we're doing. Okay, just so first and foremost, that has served you well because you were in there and it gave you that kind of experience to go forward with. However, like you say, the occult is what brought you out of that. So effectively, and with no disrespect to you whatsoever, you were an order follower.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can say all these things to me. I can take it all because
I know. I know you are the most humble of. You're probably the most humble person I know. Genuinely, stand-up guy. You could have kept that money coming in. You could have kept that prestige. You could have kept that authority. That would have kept you well, even in times of hardship. You could have gone into the alleged New World Order, right? You could have gone into that with your jackboots on, with your uniform, with your helmet, with your rifle, and you probably could have profited from that quite well, right? Okay. However, when it came to an attack on your sovereignty, when it came to somebody saying you have to take a stabby thing in your arm, otherwise you have to leave your position, you stood on conviction, right? So that takes balls of steel. That takes absolute recognition of sovereignty, right? That is, okay, I've followed orders up to a point. I've recognized that is wrong. I've recognized that dropping bombs on certain countries because I'm told to, or paratrooping into a certain territory. Just because I'm told to, no, that's not good enough. I need to justify why I'm doing that. Is there a threat? Is there harm being committed by these people? Because if not, then how can I justify that?
Yeah, exactly.
Right, so following orders is not the answer to that. So you put a stop to that and you declined to follow orders. And you walked away from that.
But the only thing that stood in my favor, like I say, is understanding the occult. So the occult saved me from being and continuing to be an evil-minded human being.
Yeah.
Soldiers are massively brainwashed. Again, this is probably worthy of a podcast in itself, perhaps in a later date.
Hey, we'll do that.
Because I am massively, even though I admire and respect all the guys I used to work with as soldiers, I'm the first person to speak openly and publicly that everybody should leave the military. But of course, nobody's going to do that just on the basis of myself on a podcast or anybody in a podcast. You need to come to that determination. That determination is achievable by understanding and accepting natural law. If you understand these principles, truth and principle sets you free, as it did me. A soldier is soul dead. That means you don't understand, you don't accept any sovereign principle, you don't accept the truth, you only accept orders. If you accept orders, then you are effectively a slave. There's no kind of way to put it. You're a slave, you're brain dead as a slave. Which is great if you want somebody to do a hardcore job. And I understand that. I've been there. I've wore the t-shirt. I've got all the medals, and I'm throwing them in the bin.
Don't throw them in the bin, because you can use that as an example of it. If you can set that as a.
But they're all trinkets based on, in a moral society that's lost the plot. That's what that stands for. And again, I think we should maybe look at this on another podcast, because there's so much we could explain about this, which relates to the police and the military. Both of these organizations are largely immoral and need to be abolished in any society that wants to drive and strive for freedom.
We talk about order followers. All right. So we've looked at the military and the police. They're the obvious examples. I mean, we see security. I mean, security as well. It's a joke to me. I mean, you see, security guards and, you're not allowed to do that. Why? Because they said, we're not allowed. Right. Okay. Well, look at, who else is an order follower? In the last 5 years, we've seen a different kind of order follower, haven't we? I'm going to say mass formation, but I don't say the
yeah.
last bit because it'll get the video censored.
Mm.
Which is anybody lining up to put a
Mhm.
mask on.
Yeah,
Anybody lining up to go and get a sticky thing in their arm.
yeah,
That's a kind of order follower because they're listening to the media and they're taking their orders from the government, from the media.
yeah, exactly. Especially to the
Yeah.
individuals who work for organizations that were endorsing these products,
Mm.
and these are no, this is the same mindset as a soldier, a soul-led individual, where they're just accepting orders based on moral relativism. We've mentioned that term.
But again, okay, so we said, well, a lot of the times we're told that we miss context. All right, moral relativism. It's a massive term that I think most people that are not even familiar with. All right,
Yeah,
so let's. All right, can we go into what moral relativism is? Okay, so it's relative, morally relative. So Steve, give us just a quick overview of that, and then we'll.
Yeah, well, it's the understanding that morality is or can be dictated by a group of individuals or another individual instead of coming from the concepts of nature itself. I mean, morality is not something that is written by the legislation of man, even though they'll have you believe that,
Oh,
the
they do.
legislators will literally write down what they believe that the law should be, what the difference between right and wrong should be. But of course, this is a product of nature. This is not the the whim of a legislator. This is a product of nature. Of course, moral relativism is the religious ideology that keeps people aligned to the will of the psychopathic ruling elite. We believe that they have the right to dictate the terms, even though no magical ingredient has ever given them that right, but we conceptually believe that they do.
So okay, so bringing it back into the focus of the concept of fake awake and the seven deadly mindsets, we presume that the media reinforcing the government has that authority.
Yeah.
We presume that they have that right.
Yeah. And fundamentally, it's because we have assigned our sovereignty to the whim of other people.
Well, so
We've lost our freedom because we've lost our freedom in our minds.
Have we outsourced our sovereignty?
I love that. Yeah, that's a great term. That's in the book. Outsourced our sovereignty. Wow.
It needs an edit. We've outsourced our sovereignty. I know it needs edit.
Don't steal that phrase. I think that's a great one. That's Nathan Lucius.
Copyright.
Sovereignty. Love
there
that.
You go. Oh, there you go. I think we need another toast shortly. But again, this is presumed authority. This is presumed that the media is correct in what it's telling you. This is presumed that the media is correct in the authority that is handed down to them from government. And again, we know that there's levels above government that's really strict. Okay, fine. Don't dispute that. We know that there's roundtable groups. We know that this influences policymakers, BlackRock, Vanguard, Club of Rome, etc. Don't dispute that at all. Absolutely true. However, when we talk about government, we are literally talking about any form of mind control that is associated with statism and authority, which I think, but it's presumed authority.
Yeah.
They presume their own authority. They don't speak for me. They don't speak for you. They don't have our best interests at heart, which means they don't have the people listening to this. They don't have their best interests at heart.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
So perhaps then we need to reevaluate that. Fair enough.
I like that. Yeah.
Shall we move on?
What's the next?
Right.
We're on to number 6.
Okay. So, this is a good one. This is a favorite of the New Age believers.
Oh, no.
Right. So, number 6 of the 7 deadly mindsets is naivety, or as some people would refer to it in the French as naivete. Naivete.
I say naivety.
I say naivety. I'm a bloody northerner.
Yeah.
I'm a northerner. Just like, you're more northern than I am. So if you're saying naivety, I'm going to say yeah. Anyway, right. Naivety is being easily fooled, convinced, swayed, or manipulated into certain ways of thinking, having poor discernment. So there's that judgment call coming back in. Blindly accepting the views and opinions of others. Gullibility, resulting from innocence or simplicity, lacking necessary knowledge or experience, open to suggestion, overly trusting in others due to absence of necessary knowledge or experience. I mean, that's a biggie.
Yeah.
right? So just to reiterate the previous 6: ignorance, belief, arrogance, poor judgment or lack of discernment, presumption, and naivety. So the way that I've done this is I've basically started it at the root cause, which is ignorance, and added onto it from there. So where did it go wrong? What was the next logical step? From ignorance, you develop beliefs. From beliefs, you reinforce it with arrogance. Arrogance and beliefs and ignorance occurs because of poor judgment. Poor judgment occurs because of presumption, and presumption comes from a form of naivety. So, I mean, there's quite a lot in there. I mean, the naivety in itself, I'm gonna call. Don't shoot me. The New Age,
Right.
New Age believers, right? The whole love, light, and shite crowd. I mean, it's copyright, right? It's literally copyright.
Yeah.
So those that think that positivity is the way out, that all you've got to do is think happy thoughts and everything else will just mold itself to your reality, because that totally works, doesn't it? That is totally objectively true, that it yields results. Never.
Yeah.
All right. So naivety is it is a terrible mind trap. It is probably the most prevalent mind trap in the human psyche, which is that we simply take things on trust. We take things without question. We accept things without looking into it. Oh, that's just the way it is. Oh, that person's being kind to me with no ulterior motive. Oh, somebody gave me a gift. Some financial institution offered me some incentives, but don't worry, don't read the small print. I'm sure it's all fine. Nothing is done without purpose, which is a whole different. We can go on purpose in another podcast because it's massive.
I mean, fundamentally, people just need to have a more robust mindset. If you were to do a manual job, for example, you work on a farm, you're a farm laborer, you're a builder, you lift bricks, you do any physical job, you have to be physically fit. If you're not physically fit, you're going to struggle with that line of work. Equally, when it comes to understanding truth and principle and guarding oneself against psychological operations. And let's face it, almost everything that we perceive in daily life is generated in some way, shape, or form through some form of psychological manipulation for whatever reasons. And there's lots of reasons for that. But if we are mentally robust, spiritually robust, i.e., we are not naive. We are not naive children, spiritual children, because we're responsible adults. We lack naivety. Then we can progress in the world and shape the world. As I said, we all want freedom. Well, we need to be less naive. We need to start being more robust in the mind. And that takes, again, I'll say it for what it is. If we don't understand the spiritual knowledge from occult sources, because we've rejected that knowledge, or we think we know better because you mentioned the New Age, for example. I mean, I hate to say it, but I think that's the best example of a group of people. And again, I'm not picking on any individuals here, but the New Age notions in general are massively based on naivety.
Can we give an example of what we mean by the New Age? I mean, I can go to the page. I've got a section, but just do you want me to?
Have you got something on the top of your head that I think you're itching to impart?
I'm gonna jump straight to the love, light, and shite crowd, which is basically happy thoughts equals manifestation equals reality reflects to you your own making. Without going off on a tangent, if you want to make something work in reality, you have to kind of put some effort into it. You have to take action. It's not just about happy thoughts, right? So I would say that the New Age thought is be positive. Don't have any negative thoughts. Don't look into the darkness. Don't look into the abyss. Don't do any shadow work because that is the darkness, right? Not necessarily.
Exactly.
And just think happy thoughts, and that'll give you everything you please. I'm not being funny. When the hell does that ever happen? Because if that was the case, if we all create our own reality, how do you explain collective reality, collectivism? We are all in this particular reality together, suffering from the consequences of aggregate causes, right? It's just, we're all in this together, and I don't mean any government slogans by that. I mean, we genuinely are all part of the greater collective.
Yeah.
If you think that you somehow are separate, that you have a magical ability to think yourself into a positive future without taking any action, without taking positive action, you are delusional.
Yeah, exactly. Delusional. I mean, that's the perfect example. I mean, let's just use delusional,
which is naivety, really.
Yeah, same. Let's just use it as the same thing. I mean, naivety sounds a little bit more polite, so I'm just going to go for delusional.
Let's go. You have to be.
We need to be less delusional. Yeah.
Come on, Steve.
So, in order to be less, well, here's an example. If we flood our minds with truth and principle and correct knowledge, then these delusions dissipate. They get flooded out. The delusions will pour out of our lugholes because we are embracing knowledge, correct knowledge. I mean, one example of that, because you've mentioned the manifestation that the New Age community will naively
I couldn't resist
parrot on a regular basis. We'll just manifest the
light.
Where is this new manifested bliss? I've not seen it yet. I'd love to join you over the rainbow with the unicorns and find out where this bliss is taking place, because I've not seen it in the real world. However, if we understand the trivium process, the trivium is the building blocks of how reality is formulated. Again, how many people in the New Age community would confess to having a full understanding of the trivium process? Therefore, if you don't understand that process, you don't understand how reality is formulated, which is not just about having happy thoughts. Happy thoughts is the start of that process, but there's other things that need to take place in order to develop that. This isn't happening because we have got a limited or naive understanding. I'm not saying everybody has. I'm just saying this is an observation, and I'm sure many other occult researchers have witnessed this and remarked about this. Certainly, again, I recommend the works of Mark Passio. Mark Passio will, sorry,
absolutely. No, absolutely.
I'm just going to whisper this. He's going to tell you, you asshole.
Just most deserving.
You mentioned the New Age community. Sorry, New Agers. But again, I'm not focusing negativity on one particular bunch of people, because the majority of the world simply don't understand the trivium and have got even less of an idea. So naivety needs to be worked upon.
I would take it further than that, and I have actually in the book, and we can go into this later on, which is where it gets to critical thinking. If you've got naivety, you cannot by default be a critical thinker. If you're just gonna, if you're gonna blindly believe something that just happens to appeal to you, that sounds good, that sounds happy, because you might have an interest in it. Okay, I get it. I don't have a problem with hope and optimism and things like that. Let's differentiate. Positivity is not what we're getting at here. We're not saying don't be positive. We're not saying that not to have that positive mindset. I would say it was actually quite essential, but to simply disregard clear problems that are present in front of you because you'd rather not tackle them.
Yeah.
Because you'd rather leave them to somebody else, because you want some kind of savior on the side figure to come in and swoop you in and say, "Don't worry, I've got this. Sit back, do nothing, stand down, don't take action." No, naivety is ignorance. Naivety will lead us into a trap.
Yeah,
it is inaction, right? It is
I
allowing. Well, a naive. What are we talking about? We're about an extreme imbalance. It's an extreme cognitive imbalance. So I think it's extreme right brain. So it's the feminine side of the
massively.
So it's extreme feminine mindset, which is just trust and love. And leave it to the nature.
Love and light.
Love and light, but don't take any action. Just believe in.
I mean, essentially by taking no action or choosing to willfully ignore one aspect of a situation is the very thing that's allowing this to breed and to garner power. Our inaction, our lack of focus upon a problem is what's allowing the problem to grow in the dark. that it needs to stop. It's not just naive, it's actually dangerous. It's dangerous thinking. It's, massively dangerous.
Would you agree then that if you, I mean, I don't see how you can disagree, but if you ignore a problem because you naively expect the opposite to happen, or because you think that it's a different way to how it is, if you ignore that problem, what's going to happen? It's not going to go away, right? But then it comes back to ignorance again.
It is.
It's what happens if you ignore a problem? Well, the problem's going to persist. It's not going to magically fix itself. It requires action. It requires introspection. It's how can I learn to do the skills to fix this, or where do I go to learn the skills to fix this? What do I need to know to fix the problem? But it's not. It's an abdication of that. It's basically I abdicate my role in this and outsource it to. Well, I've done it again, to hopium.
Yeah.
Let's hope something else comes to fix this for us. Let's hope that it's self-resolving.
Can I use an example? Please. I mean, as much as I kind of I kind of want people to leave the military, I can't take away from the fact that the military has got how to fight down to a fine detail. So, for example, the military will not just ignore the capabilities of an enemy and think that if they just will positive thoughts upon that situation, that they will somehow claim victory. This is delusional. It would never happen in the military. So why would it happen outside of the military if it wasn't for the fact that some people have maybe got some delusional thoughts, thinking that something will just magically happen just because you think you've got, I don't know, you got it all sussed, or you believe that because you side with righteousness that this will just automatically destroy itself. No, this is delusional. So I'm just going to caveat the naivety with the word delusional as well. I mean, and if that sounds negative, that's because it is.
But okay, so let's take negativity, shall we? So shall we have a quick look at that, right?
Yeah.
What's more negative, actions or words? Actions or thoughts? Right. Okay. So everything begins with a thought. I get that. But if I've got a negative outlook when I go into the world, perhaps that's because of traumatic experience. Perhaps that's because I've not had it too easy. All right. Is it negative to put people off doing something productive? Is it negative to keep putting somebody down? To keep criticizing them? To keep telling them that they're no good at something? Or to keep telling them that, I don't know, perhaps you should be negative. Well, that in itself is an act of negativity.
Yeah.
If you think somebody's negative because of their psychological state, and you tell them that you don't want to associate with them because they're negative, guess what's going to happen? They're going to feel isolated. They're going to feel rejected, dejected, useless, worthless. You've made that problem worse. You can't just go around saying, oh, it's negative, therefore I'll ignore it, because you're actually contributing to the negativity of the problem. You are making it worse. And so I would say negative action, which is usually committed by the people who go around accusing people of being negative.
Yeah, it's hilarious, isn't it?
Right.
It's almost massively ironic.
It is an irony. But then again, if something is negative, well, the solution to that is not to make it more negative, right? So two negatives is still a negative. So okay, bring it up, lift it up.
Yeah.
What are they afraid of? If you are so full of the light, if you're so full of positivity and stuff, what are you so afraid of? A little bit of darkness, a little bit of depression, a little bit of dark symbolism that's being used against us or something like that. Okay, if you are so love and light, use your love and apply your light and bring that person out of negativity. Don't reinforce it. Don't put them further down, because all you're doing is putting further negativity into the world. Okay, so negativity is delusional from that perspective.
Yeah.
Right. But then I would say it was negative behaviors.
Yeah.
Well,
here's another touch of irony as well. I mean, I was a professional soldier, and I get told by truthers, and I've been told by truthers many times, how to fight a war. And that if I was to give some form of, well, in order to improve upon our battle winning capabilities, this is what we need to do, and then have many people who've never even had a fight in the school playground to tell me how I'm incorrect, that my logic is completely incorrect, and that they have got a far better opinion or far better knowledge on how this should be conducted. Good luck with that.
Well, this
Very good luck.
Well, all right. Let's take that as well. You know, what you I don't know how to phrase this. Right. You're often challenged on, say, you know, your approach to this, to looking at the problems.
Yeah.
Right? So you look at it from a strategical standpoint. You've had the training to think of things from a tactical, strategical point of view,
Yeah.
right? To look at outcomes, to measure the success of your actions,
Yeah.
to investigate, fully research your enemy.
Yeah. Using planning tools.
Using planning tools, right? It's okay. It's a military tactic. Yes, it is. It's a martial tactic, but you can apply that to martial arts. But is it not rational? Is it not a rational, logical approach to a problem? If you want to resolve a problem, first of all, you've got to understand it. In order to understand it, you've got to look at it. In order to understand it, you've got to know how that works. All right. So the military mindset, and this is why I say, don't disregard your military past. It has served you well, and it can serve the truth community very, very well, because we can use that expertise and apply it to the greater world, right? The greater, you know, the external, the exoteric, if you will, right? It has taught you valuable skills to look into that and to utilize it and to look at the results and to, you know, look at combat effectiveness, look at the effect of your actions.
Yeah.
Right. It's that. Okay. So it's a military mindset. Who gives a shit? Does it work? Yes. So when somebody calls you into question, says, "Oh yeah, but that's just a military thing." Yeah, it is a military thing. And if they're using it and it's effective, perhaps we should be looking at it too.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
And it's likewise if you wanted to build let's just say a car engine. I'm not going to ask an artist to paint me a beautiful oil painting of how you think the internal functions of I don't know the mechanism of an engine works. I'm going to ask an architect. I'm going to get designers based in mechanics who can engineer this and bring it to a result. If that person can build the engine, then that's who I'm going to trust in order to build the engine. I'm not going to listen to a new ager, for example.
So you're not going to just believe that it'll fix itself?
Well, I would if I was naive. If I was naive, I might perhaps think that if I was just to express the right emotion, especially if I was still in a state of bliss, that this engine might just reproduce itself out of magic. I probably, you know, I might be waiting for a long time for that result. So,
do you not think that will be successful, and that we could just sit back and do it? Or is it possibly more plausible to say that action is required?
I would definitely say the latter. But what I would say is, I mean, in terms of the military, for example, I was a member of the military, but now I educate people on the occult. So does that mean that I've got the military left brain and I'm completely trapped in the left brain, or have I managed to break out of that mindset, break out of the deadly mindsets that hold us back by doing the work and understanding to reach a level where my left and right brain hemispheres are in a better state of balance? So therefore, I'm in a better state of working to a standard in the world that aligns with natural law. I would say yes, because that's what I've done. It took me a long time, but like I said earlier, it wasn't until I understood elements of the occult by looking into it did this transpire. So I mean, I would respectively promote this knowledge and understanding to other people so we can align with natural law in our behaviors and drop the naive line of thinking.
But I would add to that by saying what was the trigger point of that, which is to change your perception. You couldn't have done that unless you wanted to question your own thoughts, right? Why am I following these orders? What is the consequences of my actions? When you delve into that, you again metanoia.
Change your perspective. And one thing, I mean, to mention briefly on this, one thing that helps with metanoia to change perspectives is the level of darkness that transpires in the world. I'd imagine one big example for a lot of people was called. Could I mention that?
I think we can say.
Can you mention
we can mention the con now, can't we?
Yeah,
We
the
can
con.
yeah, I think we can.
The convid. Convid was probably a big trigger point for a lot of people. No, can I mention that one?
Ooh, nine and two towers.
Two significant buildings.
Yeah, I think so.
Or three, if you want to take the Oh God, we'll have to do this. We'll have to break that one down at some stage. That's massive.
Do we have to? I mean, to be fair, I mean, look, right. If you want that one, no offense, mate. If you want that one breaking down, the trigger, David Icke, off you go. I did that one.
Oh, I've not read that.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah.
Is
it more than 438 pages?
400. Well, yeah. To be fair, the text is really small in my book. You know, there's a lot in there. I reckon there's about 900 pages worth. So seriously, anyone wants?
I think we should go for what we're on. I want the level 7. Level 7.
Oh, we're on level 7.
Let's go for level 7.
Right. Okay. I don't know where you were going with that.
I don't know. Well, speaking of levels, do you know there's 322 levels on the WTC buildings if you add up all the floors and all the rooftops? 322.
No, I didn't know that.
That's an interesting one, isn't it?
It's a bit. It's almost like it was a sacrificial offering or something.
By the way, there were 7 buildings there, and you've got 7 points, and there's 7 colours in the rainbow, and there's 7 hermetic principles, and there's it's like an agenda being completed. It's like a little bit of completion. It almost is. It's almost like the whole universe is kind of created to make a lot of sense if you look deep enough into the language that decodes it, the occult.
But you can only look into it if you're willing to look into it. You're gonna have to be willing to want to do that.
Exactly.
We'll come to this, right. So I've got something called the law of square.
Oh wow.
Oh, I know. It's my law. I made it. I mean, it's not. It's just an observation. It's not. I didn't create it. But however, it links into this massively. And it's like, if you want to take real world action, the law of square shows you how to do it. The law of square is the real law of manifestation. And people are like, well, who is he talking about? We'll come to it another time. But trust me, it's a good one. Right, okay. Oh, do you know what? I'm going to blow my own trumpet. I fucking love my work. It's great.
I think people should just buy the book. Buy the book.
Just buy the book. Seriously, there's tons of stuff in there. Right, okay. Deadly mindset number 7 of 7, which is what I refer to. There's so many names for this. So it's a psychological term, it's a psychological condition, right? So I've put it down as splitting. Right, this one's going to be fun. All right. Splitting is basically thinking in extremes, right? So it's the effect of a left or right brain imbalance. It doesn't matter which side you fall into, it is the extreme of that.
Yeah.
Right. And it is so extreme that you cannot see things from another perspective. Oh. There it goes again. That's annoying. I think Jesus might have been.
He might have
been onto something. Yeah, he might have been onto something. There's the sarcasm overload. Just blame the whiskey. Blame Steve. Blame the. The magical. It's not even going through.
Don't do this at home.
Definitely don't do this at home. It's ridiculous. Right. Right. So, deadly mindset number 7. And I want everyone to think about whether I'm being serious. Actually, I want everyone to think about this one, to consider whether this is something that you yourself do, because I know so many people within the truth movement, the New Age movement, especially religious churches and things like that. Just consider this. Right, I'm going to read it out to you, hopefully coherently. It's your fault, right? Splitting or thinking in extremes is the inability to think rationally in a balanced or impartial manner. There's that judgment thing again. Thinking in extremes in terms of black and white, right and wrong, good and bad, whilst being incapable of compromise. So many people come to mind. Also known as binary thinking. Again, it's got a lot of titles, right? So myopic perception. So that is being able, tunnel vision, basically only being able to see something from one perspective, from one particular point of view, right? Okay, so it's a state of mental cognitive imbalance. There's that polarizing dialectic, leading to impaired judgment or insufficient understanding, simple-mindedness, uncomplex thought, insufficient or absent knowledge used to formulate one-sided opinions and beliefs. And my God, do we have a problem with this one? So just to reiterate, I'm going to go through them again, right?
Yeah.
7 deadly mindsets. Number 1, ignorance. Number 2, belief built on the back of ignorance. Number 3, arrogance, which reinforces belief in ignorance. 4, poor or lack of discernment, which is poor judgment, which leads to the other 3 occurring. Presumption, I would say, is probably a root cause. Naivety, which is blind acceptance, basically. And splitting. Number 7 of the 7 deadly mindsets is splitting, and this one is massively prevalent. And I mean, there's so many examples that comes to mind, Steve, on this one. I'd probably be considered quite mean if I use certain examples.
Well, on that is, I mean, have you got is there a particular thing that kind of would use as your example, or the one thing that kind of bugs you the most in terms of what you see?
Religion.
Really?
Flat Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Flat Earth and religion, or
Flat Earth.
religion.
Well, I think, to be fair, I think Flat Earth is a religion because it ticks the boxes. And if it's a religion, it means it's a belief system. And if it's a belief system, it's not based on truth and fact, and truth and fact is based on ignorance and belief. Okay, so we'll go back into there. So,
oh, wait a second. Oh, there's a million people who just left the chat.
So don't leave the chat. Right. Okay. Moment of truth there. Right, I want to read a bit more from there, actually, but I'll come to that. Right, okay, Flat Earth. So in the book, Fake Awake, which we're doing massive podcasts on, hopefully. All right. In line with the 7 deadly mindsets that we're looking into at the minute, I've done the 7 deadly psyops, right? And that chose 7 because 7's it's an occult number. It's a divine number, right? It's kind of, it's one of those numbers that people like to attach things to. It's like 3, right? The number 3, it's easier in threes. Well, okay, 7 is one of those numbers. It's 7 days of the week, the 7 chakras, the 7 planets, the 7 luminaries, etc., etc.
Yeah.
7 is one of those occult catchwords. It's an anchor point. And I thought it was a nice rounded number, not round number, rounded. That I could demonstrate the 7 deadly mindsets being actively prevalent. So yeah, I would say that in terms of splitting, it's a massive problem, mate, within the truth movement. It's like, right, I have been brought up to think this way, which means that my conclusions are going to be based on that.
Yeah.
And that is all I can see. So therefore, everything that counters that way of thinking, everything that counters that particular mindset, viewpoint, perception, is wrong. It's bad. It's black and white. It's the checkerboard.
Yeah.
Right. Well, one of the best ways that you can use to control and manipulate people is to put them in an extreme, right? Because then what you do is then you take that extreme and you pit them up against the opposite extreme, right? And then the next thing you've got a war, right? Well, this is called polarizing dialectics, right? It's you've got the left extreme and the right extreme, and you let them fight, as opposed to rationalizing, coming to a compromise, coming to an understanding, coming to a middle ground where you can fully understand things and rationalize and think things through. But people don't seem to be able to do this, and honestly, I know so many people who fall into splitting that it's embarrassing. I'm embarrassed for the human species.
You see this all the time. I mean, I don't watch the news, but you see this all the time, literally on newsworthy events.
Just a bit.
All the time. I mean, in terms of, I'm not going to quote examples of splitting per se, but what I'm going to do is basically say, well, in terms of a response, the way around this kind of line of thought, this mindset, is to have a balanced understanding, a balanced brain. So all the mystery schools, all the secret societies are about the transformation of the mind in order to get the 2 hemispheres, the sol and the mon, between the temples,
the wisdom,
right, to generate the Temple of Solomon, which in religious scripture talks about the Ark of the Covenant, which is held a golden box of wisdom, which is held in the Temple of Solomon, which is essentially the balance of the 2 brain hemispheres. And when you balance the 2 columns, let's say the 2 columns,
the 2 pillars
between the 2 columns is the little pillar,
Right? Steady on now. Steady on.
The little pillar, the middle pillar is where we need to be. The middle pillar between the two big pillars. Let's just say we need to be in the building 7 before it kind of
before the milk and sausages. I don't know where. To ignore that.
Yeah. So we need to be at the middle pillar, and if you're at the middle pillar, we can then harness the generative power between the male principle and the female principle. So if we have got the male and the female brain hemispheres, which is related to the non-aggression principle and the self-defense principle, the two essential components of how to live a balanced and healthy life in this rather crazy world we inhabit, then we are in the right place in order to operate correctly. So we need to be in the middle pillar.
And you'll take the middle path, the narrow path.
Exactly.
The path to truth, the path to, and it's a very difficult path.
Yeah. So we're not then just taking a male dominated left brain approach or right or the female dominated right brain approach. We are balanced between those two principles. We're not going to do crazy stuff. We're going to think rationally and logically, and that's where we need to be, rationally and logically. We need to be masters of the microcosm, our own minds. We need to own our own minds in order to do that. So we need to stop taking the influence and judgment and the authority of somebody else's mind over us. We need to have our own minds. We also need to be masters of the macrocosm, which is the wider world. And if we can harness both of these principles, because we embrace the occult, which means hidden, by the way. I don't know if we covered that earlier, but
I think we've covered it in the Occult Academy podcast. So again, we're probably going to have to repeat it 1,000 times. But again, occult refers to something that has been hidden from view.
So what's generally been hidden is how to live a healthy lifestyle, a healthy and balanced lifestyle by embracing knowledge that has been kept hidden and in the dark from the majority of humanity. And that's all me and Nathan are trying to bring back to life, to shed light on the occult hidden knowledge for us all to benefit from. And this relates to in essence, it's when you look back on that, look back from above on what this all is. It's very simple when you think logically what this is. It is quite simple. It takes a little while to adjust our brains to adapt to this, but it is actually quite logical and simple in its process. It just means we need a little bit of a mental revolution in order to come to terms with it. Because fundamentally, as I was, and I'm testament to that, I was a soldier for most of my working life, thinking I was doing the right thing for the good of the human population, when in reality, sadly, no, I was actually doing the wrong thing.
Yet, ironically, people who are not familiar with, conspiracies and the occult and things like that, they would laud you as a savior. They would say that you are their protector, that you're their guardian. Exactly. And okay, I can understand that from the perspective that they're coming from. But the irony is actually you're taking away their freedoms in the guise of protecting their freedoms.
Yeah, exactly. So fundamentally, this is a sign. If we were to say, and one understanding I had in the military was a battle damage assessment. If we were to do a battle damage assessment of our own progress in let's just say the state of the nations as it is, at the moment, millions of people think that the military, and again, this is just an example, think the military are adorable. We should honor them. We should, give them with medals and all the rest of it. When millions of people think that way, well, we need to reverse that. We need a mental revolution to acknowledge and accept truth and principle, which proves that actually the things that we admire and respect are actually the wrong things. So police, military, government, all of these things need to be abolished. This will take time. This will take some lot of work to come to that reality of understanding, but that needs to be done. And that is one sign, if more people are aligned with the words that I'm expressing, that these things need to be come out of fashion, for want of a better expression, then that is one positive sign that we are actually making progress in our battle damage assessment. Hope that makes sense.
No, it does. I mean, battle damage assessment. I mean, how effective are you, right? So how effective have you been from your methods? Again, okay, it's military tactics and strategy, but we can learn from that.
Yeah.
The Art of War is one of the most ancient books ever written.
Yeah.
And yet it's probably one of the most pivotal works ever to reach man. You know, it's like
still used in principle in modern warfare.
Well, what does it teach you? Not just know thyself, first of all, right? You got to know your own tactics, your own military, but you got to know your own internal and your own external. But it also says that if you don't know your enemy as well as you know yourself, you're going to lose.
Yeah,
you're going to lose, right? I mean, you might win 50% of battles, but 50% is still defeat. You need to win 100% of the battles to be effective, to be combat effective. And you talk about this brilliantly.
Know your enemy and the battle is won. Know thyself and the war is won. So we need to know the cause. We need to understand the cause and fix the causes before we fix the effects.
Yeah. I like that. Say that again.
Well, give that again. That's not my words, by the way.
No, I know, but reiterate them because that's a good one.
Know your enemy and the battle is won, but know thyself and the war is won. So we need to fix in here. We need to fix the temples of Sol and Mon.
Brilliant. I mean, as within, so without, right? And again, this is what shadow work's about. This is what Pascal was on about.
Yeah.
Before you can start to affect positive change externally in the exoteric, you've got to affect change internally in the esoteric, the internal, right? So the kingdom of God is within.
Yeah.
You know, but the fruits of that labor is what we put out into the world, and that's brilliant. I mean, it's again, are we talking about where does that come from?
Oh, I'm not sure.
But again, it's not just a case of know thyself, which I would argue is a new age mindset. Oh, you've just got to know thyself, but they don't really. They don't really understand themselves. They just think they do. I'm in touch with spirit. No, you're not. You're delusional.
Exactly.
You're delusional.
You need to know thyself a little bit better. And one way to do that is essentially hold your book up, Nathan. This is it. If you want to know thyself, and win the war, that's what you need. And it's only, do you know what is it? 20 quid? 20 quid.
Good.
And remember, money is one of the psyops that holds humanity back.
Oh, no, you just put them off.
Yeah. if you want to get rid of your money, by all means, I'll take some. Nathan will have a slice.
Well, we need it, to be fair. So we'll have a slice. So can I read something else from it, actually? So just following on from splitting, right? How much of that have I had? This might come across in Arabic or fucking Chinese or something. Right. Splitting. Unbalanced extremism leads to harmful behaviors, egotism, ignorance, belief, arrogance, presumption, and lack of discernment. The culmination of all 7 of the previous mindsets are the ideal conditions for mental discomfort and cognitive dissonance. And delusional thinking is what results from that.
Yeah.
And it is delusional thinking, right? It's thinking in extremes, it's an imbalance. This mental state is made worse when one chooses to remain closed off to outside influences, resulting in the formation of echo chambers and purity spirals. People, especially truthers, in this mindset appear to become aggressive towards those who counter their position and provide alternative perspectives. What was that about? Metanoia? Change your perspective? Be open to alternative perspective. I mean, what's the idea? The whole idea of having an open mind is to be able to look at things from a different point of view. The idea of rationality is to take those points of view and judge them, to be able to assess them based on their merits, their outcomes, their value, their quality. Trivium method: quality in, process, quality out.
Yeah.
If you're putting quality in the inner world, into the kingdom of God, then you're going to output them into the greater, the wider universe, into the exoteric. And it has to start with an ear. I mean, you went through your personal journey. You had to give up a career.
Oh, yeah. Can I tell you a quick very little
Yeah,
small
go for it.
bit here. We'll talk about, yeah, you'll face hardships. Yeah, I was
Yeah, you
down,
do.
and this was quite ironic, really, especially if you understand Freemasonry and the occult. I faced severe financial hardship taking the route I did, which was based in righteousness by leaving a career which was immorally wrong
Mhm.
or morally wrong.
Yeah.
I was down to 47 pence, the 47th problem of Euclid, and I thought that was really quite fitting. When you reach the lowest of the low, you realize, well, yeah, financially, I'm going to suffer. Has it broken me? Absolutely not.
It's
Money
almost
is an
like,
illusion.
well,
Don't get me wrong, it's great to have it.
mm.
I can buy ice creams and stuff. But when you're down to 47p and you realize that, yeah, the decisions you've made are pretty tough, but that really makes you as a person when you realize that you can face adversity. And let's face it, I was a soldier and I was used to doing physical hardships. But when it comes to how am I going to pay my mortgage and how am I going to put fuel in my car and this, that, and the other, that's a real, I don't know, a real milestone. I'm not saying I recommend it. Don't get me
It's
wrong.
been tough.
But
Yeah, that's been tough.
I recommend leaving any job that steers you down a path of immorality because we want to change the world. We have to make some very tough decisions, which aren't going to be necessarily comfortable. But this is something that the human race needs to do in order to grow spiritually. And we need that mental revolution. We need that presence of mind in order to do that. And I know that there's many, many, many people out there who can overcome the situations of hardship that we're likely to face as a result.
But again, if we have that unity of purpose, you won't have hardship because we'll all be banded together and we can push it through.
Yeah.
We can bring this through by not complying with tyranny, not complying with evil, and not complying with mandates and all of these things that hold us back. If it's not right, why the hell are we going along with it?
Mm-hmm.
And you are the living example of that. And so I'm going to say, people say that we don't need leaders. And I always counter that with, yeah, we do. We need lots of leaders. We need somebody to know the way and lead the way so that those that come after can also become leaders, right? We don't want people to blindly follow. We want people to understand, to take the knowledge, to take again, if you're about wayfinding and things like that, don't follow the leader.
Yeah.
Observe the leader, learn from the leader, and then lead that which comes behind you so that they can then do the same and reciprocate in kind. I think that's fair.
Yeah,
we do need leaders. We need lots of leaders. We don't need rulers. We don't need followers. We don't need masters and slaves. We need those who have presence of mind and those who have sovereignty within themselves to know the truth and walk the truth and speak the truth. And I think that would be probably a good place to leave it. What do you reckon, Steve?
So. Yeah, I mean, it's worth. You've mentioned the 7 deadly mindsets. It's worth recapping on each of them.
Okay, yeah, I can go through. Absolutely, I can go through them again. Yeah. Again, I mean, to me, this is just basic psychology. This is the negative aggregate, right? So one bad thing leads to the consequences of another bad thing, which leads to many more consequences of more bad things occurring, right? So this is a logical progression of bad things occurring from a root cause of badness, right? So it's what we're dealing with here is a poor foundation is a building that cannot stand for long, right? If it can't weather the storm, it's going to collapse in on itself. If you've got a solid foundation, you can build upon that.
Yeah.
All right. So what I'm talking about with the 7 deadly mindsets is basically you have a foundation of sand, one that is easy to collapse. I don't know what you're typing in here, mate.
Oh, I'm putting the Occult Academy in.
I don't even know what that's going to show, but go for it. Right. So, okay, just to recap, and again, look, this is important. I want everyone watching this, and if you've managed to stay with us this far through, thank you very much, and we're both very grateful for that. The lovely liquid is also very grateful for that. But this is it. If you want to understand why we are in the current position that we're in, consider this. All right. Ignorance leads to belief, right? Erroneous, false beliefs. which leads to arrogance, right? So the arrogance is to, crystallize, to reinforce those erroneous false beliefs. False beliefs are based upon lack of judgment, lack of good judgment, lack of discernment. That comes from a presumption and naivety, which is 6 and 7 of the 7 deadly mindsets, and splitting, which is the imbalance of the brain, the imbalance of the mind, which falls into one extreme or another. And extremism, I think we can take any kind of extremism, whether that be religious, financial, or government, and look at the effect that has on the physical world, on the mental world, the emotional world, the intellectual world. Extremism is an imbalance. It is an extreme of one dialectic over another, which is, I think we need to go into polarizing dialectics in the next one as well. But that's what this is about. And incidentally, we do cover polarizing dialectics quite significantly in the book, with plenty of examples to say, look, this is the extreme of that. And I like to use the colors red versus blue, because it's the opposite ends of the spectrum, which are pitted against each other. And nothing good ever comes. In fact, as I was saying, I'm looking at the book in your background, 180 degrees. By our friend, we can say that. He stayed here, he stayed in this very house. Fergus O'Connor Greenwood. But if you notice the colours there, you've got your blue and red. I think, and obviously 180, which is half of 360, which is half of a circle. I think you might know a thing or two.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you reckon? Yeah. Incidentally, very good book. Please go and have a look at it. Buy it. Support Fergus. He's a lovely guy, actually.
He is. Yeah.
He had some very entertaining times, I think, with us. It's but no, seriously, go and look at Fergus O'Connor Greenwood's book, 180 Degrees. But it looks, what we're getting at here is, if you have, I'm trying to finish this properly, right? So if you have an imbalanced mind, you have a skewed perception. You have an extremist view, which means that you are only looking at things from a very small, myopic outlook. That's never going to bring you the results that you want. It's never, again, as within, so without. If you're unbalanced in here, guess what? The outside, the external, the exoteric will be also unbalanced. So I suspect we've got a bit of a challenge in front of us. I suspect also that a lot of people will have turned off before now, and hopefully we can bring them back.
It's been quite a lengthy podcast, so obviously,
it's the longest hour ever, that one.
Yeah. So anyone listening in, hats off to you. Listen to us. Prattling on for
actually
a long time.
Well, we're saying prattling on. I mean, I'm exhausted from Marketing Sales Conference, so I'm not in full form. That doesn't help, Steve.
I think that actually does help.
Do you know what? To be fair,
we're going out though, so we kindly take donations. We're going to obviously toast to the imminent success of the Truth Movement. I know, obviously, congratulate everybody for listening in and tuning into our podcast. The Fake Awake podcast. This is enjoyable. I enjoy the knowledge of the occult because it leads to freedom. And I'm going to toast to your freedom.
Do you know what? Unfortunately, I think I've become more coherent on the alcohol than off it. But I'm putting that down to tiredness. I haven't really got anything to add to that. I mean, again, thanks to anyone who has listened to this. And I'm going to say something else which might be controversial, just like the book itself. Look, if you found value in this, take it, edit it. If you want to take it into, edit it into smaller chunks and then repost it into your groups, even if there's just like a 10-minute segment from Steve or myself that you found valuable or useful, or that you think that could be applied in the wider world, take it, edit it, repost it. You have our permission to do that. As long as you don't slander us, because otherwise, we'll just have to chuck whiskey at you or something. But no, seriously, try and look at things from an alternative perspective, because that's the only way we cannot change things if we reluctant to. I'm slurring now. It's your fault. If we're reluctant to look inward and to acknowledge the problems that we've got externally, and to change our minds, to change our perspective. If we can't do that, we're never going to get anywhere. Anybody who's stuck in a black and white frame, Anybody who chooses to believe over knowing, anyone who refuses to face their fears, who refuse to step into the abyss, you're already lost.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that you're lost indefinitely, but we can't pull you out of that. We can show you the door. We can open the door for you. We can lead you to the door, but it takes the individual, their sovereignty, to walk through that door and make the changes themselves. We can't do that for you, but we can guide you to it. We can lead you to that. You know, consider that what you've been told is wrong, that it's incorrect. It might be just a bit deceptive. It might not be completely correct. It might just be a bit misleading. It might be weaponized against you. Look at knowledge, look at yourself, look at what you think you know, observe your beliefs. You know, and this is again, I'm of the opinion, and this might be considered a bit extreme. If you have a belief system, get rid of it, discard it. I'm not saying if you're a Christian, there are some very good lessons in Christianity. There's some very good history in Christianity. There are some very good morals, philosophy, psychology. Take the good bits and apply it. Fine. But don't be afraid to investigate it. Don't be afraid to challenge yourself. Because if you can't challenge your own beliefs, you're lost. We need you. We need people to understand that morality equals freedom, and freedom is what we all need to band together. This is our purpose. This is our unity of purpose. If we don't band together for our freedoms, we are lost. You know, and I'm getting quite emotional about it.
I think we should. Do you know what I think? What we should do is promote three things. So I mean, you might have some slightly different opinions or different.
Yeah, but I'm open to it. So go.
Right,
give
us
it.
Three things that I always give as in terms of what do I need to do in order to learn more. Right, The End of All Evil by Jeremy Locke. It's about 97 pages long, free on PDF. You'll be able to read it in an afternoon.
I think that's also on Mark Passio's Arc Drive.
Yeah, it will be. I know he will promote that.
I will promote it. If anybody wants that, get in touch, by the way. Get in touch with Passio first because it's his idea, it's his intellectual property. So get in touch. But if you can't get it that way, get in touch with us and we'll sort something out.
It's available freely online. You can download a PDF. Honestly, you'll be able to read that in an afternoon. I will guarantee that no matter how awake you think you are, that will actually massively stir up a deep understanding in your mind. That'll blow you away.
Yeah.
Very simple and succinct. It is a masterpiece. The second thing I always recommend is in fact, I'm going to hold it up.
I like this guy, Larkin Rose.
Larkin Rose it's almost daily content on YouTube. Larkin Rose, massively intelligent bloke. This is his book. It's not massively thick. This is what I recommend, The Most Dangerous Superstition. So if you want to know more about statism and the belief in authority, this man's work is essential.
Can I add to that? Sorry to cut you off. So Larkin Rose has also produced and developed a film. It's very, very well put together. It's very well acted. It's very well produced, very well directed. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
The Jones Plantation. Yeah. I mean, that's terrific. I mean, if you want to entertain yourself and have some philosophical concepts you kind of installed into your mind as you watch it, the Jones Plantation. I think you can download it on.
It's at Amazon Prime in the UK. I don't know where else you can get it, but I watched it here with you. Yeah, and I was expecting kind of like a B movie type thing, but I was absolutely. I mean, look, I've got massive respect for Larkin Rose. I like the guy. I think he talks. He's very eloquent. He gets the message.
You know what? He does a great Trump impersonation. I think the guy is awesome. I watch his stuff almost on a daily basis. So
it's essential. He's essential to this. To Larkin Rose, and Passio and Ike and anybody else who's been.
Yeah. Well, that's the third thing. I mean, the third thing I always recommend is Mark Passio, who is absolutely
he's the master. Let's be honest.
Definitely the master on anything to do with. If you want to understand the occult and how mind control and how the pathway to freedom is largely through, in fact, essentially through natural law. He is the master at natural law. His work is absolutely outstanding. We just watched yesterday a 10-hour presentation by Mark Passio. The guy doesn't hardly even stops for breath.
I'll tell you, well, just a little bit on that. I mean, a 10-hour seminar on the shadow work. I mean, that guy has got he's got some energy, hasn't he?
Yeah. That guy will be a legend.
Yeah.
In a 1,000 years' time, that guy's name will be in the history books.
Yeah, but he's going to show it. It's not about me. It's about you. But to be fair, okay, look, go and have a look at his work, because it is top of the. I'm going to say top of the pyramid. So let's trigger people fully. It is. Look, Mark Passio is an inspiration. He's not just an inspiration. He's right. Because we wouldn't be sat here promoting this stuff if we hadn't challenged it ourselves, if we hadn't looked into it repeatedly, endlessly, and tried to challenge what he said. I mean, I've tried to challenge what he said repeatedly. I'd make note after note after. I fill pads of information trying to figure things out.
I justify that.
Well, I mean, so yesterday's 10-hour seminar, I got 20 pages of notes out of that. And people were sat there, and so he did it on Telegram. They were saying, "Oh, you can't see the slides." No, but you've still got ears. You can still hear. You can still listen to what he's saying. And my God, I mean, okay, I'm kind of glad there wasn't slides, mate.
Yeah.
In retrospect, because it means that I paid more attention to what he was saying.
Yeah. And to be honest, the way he delivers his information is massively powerful. I'll be honest. I think the guy's a living genius or a living legend.
Well, he's got an IQ of 164 or something. Yeah. I think genius is qualified. But no, seriously, look, if anybody, I'm going to reiterate what Steve's just said there. Look, go and read their books. Go and look at their seminars. Go and watch their films. Hopefully, I'd like to think we've done a good enough job with Fake Awake that we can qualify this information, we can justify it, and we can put it across succinctly and eloquently, and I'd like to think comedically as well, because I like to swear. It is entertaining.
Hold it up again, Nathan. I mean, obviously, I've contributed to that.
You have,
as have the likes of Mark Devlin, Ben Emlyn Jones, Chris Powis, who's also known as Eric Von Essex, who we sometimes talk on his podcast.
Well, you're on tomorrow.
There you go. That's right. Who else is on there? Carol.
Okay, so we've got right. So I'll just to give a little bit of an intro. So in the end part of the book, we've got exclusive interviews with well-known authors and podcasters and public figures. I'm going to say in the arena of conspiracy, truth and freedom. Let's go for that. Yourself, you've got a massive contribution in that section. So I mean, you're more than one section. Plus, you've added another massive chapter to go in the edited version, which is going to come out eventually when I can get around to editing it properly. So we've got Mark Devlin, John Hamer, both personal friends of ours. I'm going to say mine, but ours as well. Fantastic contributors to the movement. Fantastic authors, fantastic researchers. Prolific podcasters. I mean, Mark is absolutely Mark. He's great. Yeah. He's absolutely on the ball. So is John, my adoptive father. Shannon Rowan, again, a friend of John's, but also an author in her own right. She's talked about a lot of stuff. Massive contribution to the book. Please go and read these questionnaires. Look. Okay, we would like you to buy the book. Let's be honest. We didn't write it so that we would like you to buy it. However, that being said, the point of the book is to teach people the way forward, to teach people the solutions by pointing out the problems, pointing out the pitfalls, showing where people have gone wrong, and then to provide the solutions. And I've been accused of not having the solutions, but I don't know where people are getting this from. The entirety of the final chapter in this book is solutions. It deals with solutions for people who can't see the problem. It provides solutions for those that can see the problem and don't want to do anything about it. And it provides solutions for those that can see the problem and have got the conviction and the decency and the integrity and the absolute drive and motivation to do something about it. We have 3 sets of conclusions in the book. It is full of solutions and conclusions. Where the hell they get. Anyway, it's in there. Final chapter, the last revelation. It gives you the solutions, but equally, so does chapter 4. And chapter 4 is what we've just gone through, the 7 deadly mindsets. And there's more to it. There's much more to the 7 deadly mindsets. And again, it's largely based on the works of Passio, which I will endlessly promote because it's not, I promote them because he's right.
Yeah.
I like his style.
Well, he's right. I mean, you can just stop there, to be honest.
Well, that's it. I don't think I need to add anything to it. But look, Mark Passio, right? I've tried to disprove him. You can't. I mean, you can please try, go out there but just watch his bloody presentations. He is a fucking genius and he knows what he's talking about. I'm going to end it there. I can't add anything to that. Anyway,
I think hold the book up to give
everybody. From myself, Nathan Lucius, and Steve James, my co-author. There is going to be an edited version, which is going to be, I've got to say South Park reference here, bigger, longer, and uncut, which it is, but it's going to be formatted. So anyone whinging about the small text size, you can buy it in 2 different volumes or 3 different volumes or however it comes out. It's going to have added content, edited content, and more added to it. Yeah. Plus, there's other works in the process. Right.
We've got more podcast work.
Well, look, this is the thing as well. Look, we're not professionals. We're not funded. We don't have anyone backing us. We are doing this from conviction, from the love of the truth, from the love of esoteric wisdom and knowledge. And so there's so much out there. Right. It's a desire. It's curiosity, right? And it drives us. I don't want to live in a slave society. I don't want to be a slave. I don't want to live in a world that's destroyed. I would like to see nature and abundance and happiness and contentment and all of these good things. You can only ever achieve that if you look into what we're talking about here. There is only one solution, which is natural law. Natural law looks at the basic operating system of the universe. The basic laws of the universe, the unchangeable, eternal laws of the universe, which is what comes under the banner of Hermeticism, Kabbalah, things like that. Look into it. Secondly, it's moral natural law. And the only way to keep and maintain your freedoms is to be moral human beings, to set the example, to lead the way, to do what is necessary, to do what is right, even if it leads to your death. There is only one way out of this, ever. Morality equals freedom. It is directly proportional. If you think we are wrong, please challenge it. Look at it. Go and look at Passio's work. Go and look at our work. We've got a whole book worth. We've got podcasts on the way. Clearly, more whiskey on the way, I think, is necessary. Right? We're not doing this for personal gain. My God, I wish we could. It'd be nice if we could. We're not doing this for personal gain. We have a problem in the world, and the only way to solve this is to acknowledge the problem and to deal with it, right? And we can't do that by ignoring it, by choosing naivety, by choosing a specific perspective and choosing to stay on that one-sided, imbalanced road to nowhere, to despair. Do something about it. At the end of the book, I end it with, do something about it. Are you sheep or lions? Rise and do something. Use your conviction. You might not be good at certain things, but you are good at something. So take what you know, take what you've got, take what's available to you, take what you understand. Just make sure you've checked it to make sure it's true. Make sure it's factual. Make sure you can back it. Stop putting misinformation and disinformation out there. You're only feeding the system that is trying to censor you and close you down. You're only feeding the system that's trying to enslave you. Fuck that. Come on, right? Let's get this shit done. And they might shoot you. They might stick you in a gulag. They might, stick a digital ID on you. But at least try. Get a bit of conviction. Get a bit of drive. What have you got to lose? If you're a slave, you've lost everything anyway. Fuck that. Anyway, that's our monetization done. Not that it was ever going to be monetized. I'm lying. It was never going to be monetized. Anyway, if you do want to support our work, no, seriously, for a minute, please keep watching the podcasts. You can also catch us quite frequently on the Eric Von Essex podcast as well. We're regular guests. He's a friend of ours, Chris Powis, who runs that quite frequently. We've also got the Paul English show, or Paul English Live, which I think you've been on there a little bit.
I've not been on there, but
Not been
I've
on
heard
there?
you on there a few times.
We need
But
to remedy that.
again,
Need to remedy that.
you know,
Yeah.
he's often on with Eric von Essex, you know, supportive
Yeah.
of our channel. The Occult Academy as well, I definitely recommend if anyone's on Telegram. We have got quite a lot of content on the Occult Academy. I've put a link in, whether that's something
we can put that on the YouTube.
if
But
we
then
can
I've got to
share.
send a photograph and a passport picture.
All right.
I'll figure it out.
If that's something we can share,
That's
we'll
fact.
certainly do that. But would recommend that, you know, and we've got a lot. I mean, today's been quite, you know, conversation intensive. It's been quite lengthy. There is things on the Telegram channel which will put things in black and white in fairly more concise manner. You know, a lot of the points that we've covered.
Well, to be fair, mate, you're pretty much running that group at the minute because I've just not had time to contribute to it properly.
No worries.
But, however, I will say, what a fantastic community we're going to.
Yeah, we'll get some great great support. I personally, I think a lot of people, I mean, I might be wrong, but I personally think a lot of people are kind of coming on board with this information and starting to assimilate it and understand it in a lot more detail. And that's all that we need to do. We don't need to have a violent revolution.
I like what you said earlier about a mental revolution.
Yeah. That's what we need, a mental revolution. When it's all fixed in our minds, the problems of this world, I'm not saying it's going to be, you know, we're never going to encounter problems. We're going to encounter
There's always a problem.
Yeah.
There's always a, but then again, what are we going to do? Just back out and do nothing? Are we going to, you know, quit? All right, well, then it's never going to get solved.
Yeah. Anyway, the glasses are empty.
Oh, well, yours is.
We've had one or two.
I think we've had half a bottle there. I mean, it's, you know, fuel, cognitive fuel. Right, okay, I'm going to shut the fuck up before we really do some damage. Right. Can I ask anybody who has actually managed to get it this far through the podcast, please, you know, take on board what we've said. Ignore the fact that I say you know quite a lot, because I've noticed that introspection. It's a good thing. And if you can, please give us a like, a thumbs up. Spread the comment. Don't spread the comments. That's ridiculous. Spread the content. Spread the podcast if you can. Join the Occult Academy Telegram group. Give us a bit of feedback. Get in touch with us. You will get a reply. I promise you. Eventually, Steve.
It might not be a polite one.
Well, it might not be positivity.
No,
Steve.
we're all positive. We're positive for 6 months, and after that, sorry, we're going to rip you.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. Anyway, okay, so this is the softly approach, right? Okay, we hope you've enjoyed this podcast. It's been a massive one. Please, you know, spread it, learn from it, do what you got to do.
Yeah,
and that's the end, really.
Happy days. Buy the book.
Happy days. Buy the book. Fake Awake.
Champion.
There you go. With contributions from well-known authors already mentioned, and from yourself.
Stand by for more content. Yeah,
there you go. There's plenty more. Hey, actually, oh bloody hell, this is going to be the never-ending story, isn't it? It's like never-ending story part 26 or something like that. Right. Look, if anybody's got any requests for content or for if you want us to cover something or look at something, if you want us to answer any specific questions, put them in the comments. Send us an email, put it in the Occult Academy group, do something along those lines, and we'll do our best to answer it as best as possible. Even if we don't agree with it, even if we challenge it, fine. Send it to us, we'll do what we can. Anyway, right,
well,
sort off.
Well, before you go completely, and this is the very last point, we have a seminar with Mark Devlin. So it's me, Steve, and Nathan with Mark Devlin on the 17th of December. So it's just over a month away, or just under a month away in the northeast of England. We'll put details. Perhaps if we can do it on this platform,
I'll do my best.
Telegram group.
I'll do my best. Well, I'll tell you what I will do. I'm gonna tell the viewers my email address. So it's nathanluciusphp @gmail.com. If you want details of any seminars, public talks, books, you know, if you want us to do a talk for you, we're happy to do that. We're happy to travel. We'll come to you. Any questions, look, throw them at us. But if you want to get in touch with us, do it that way, at least initially, until we can get our website up and running.
Yeah, my email as well. By all means, email. It's sixblade, SIX hyphen BLADE 473@gmail.com.
And if you want to reply, it's probably best you talk to Steve, because I'm terrible with it. You know, shadow work, accept your faults. I'm shit at that, but I'm working on it. There we go. Right. And with that, thank you very much for listening and for persevering. And we hope this has been valuable to you. And so from Steve James and myself, Nathan Lucius, thank you very much. And we'll see you in the next one.